Chapter 288. Spectators from various clans. The 2 human kings from the Li clan and the 2 human kings from the Gilded Rat clan saw Long Chen from afar. They were almost certain of Long Chen's direction from the huge wave of spiritual energy just now. The Li clan's eldest son saw Long Chen from afar and sneered. He said loudly, "You're really unlucky to be standing in our way of killing the beasts. Long Chen, don't you have the combat ability of a human king? Then we'll leave these human king-level beasts to you, haha." The Gilded Rat clan's eldest son also had a vicious expression. Long Chen looked at the 5 human king-level beasts and the 3 human kings, and a murderous look flashed across his face. However, he knew that these 3 people were using this method to drive the beasts away to put him in danger. They were unwilling to personally violate the 3-month deadline mentioned by the Green Vine clan. It seemed that if this rule was violated, there would be terrible consequences, and he would not be an exception. This rule restricted them from directly attacking the entire Shumi clan within 3 months. They could only use such underhanded method. Long Chen looked at the 2 of them deeply. He did not choose to attack directly. Instead, he turned and left. This was not because Long Chen was not a match for these human king-level beasts. After all, without using martial arts, these human king-level beasts were not as strong as the human kings of the ancient clans. However, if he attacked these beasts, and these people really did not care about the rules, the consequences would be unimaginable. With his current strength, it was too difficult for him to face 3 human kings at the same time. Moreover, there were 5 human king-level beasts. As Long Chen ran, he looked back and shouted coldly at the 2 human kings from the Li clan, "In 3 months, the Li clan will be removed from the ancient desolate land. And your Gilded Rat clan." Looking at Long Chen's back and his arrogant words, the 2 human kings from the Li clan and the human king from the Gilded Rat clan's faces darkened. The eldest son of the Li clan shouted coldly, "Brat, although your battle prowess is comparable to that of a human king, you're only at the early stage of the Dao integration stage. Don't even talk about expelling us from the list in 3 months. If you're still alive, then it means that the Li clan is incompetent. Arrogant brat, no one in the northern region has ever dared to say such things to our Gilded Rat clan. 3 months later, what Shumi clan? Not only will we kill you, but we will also annihilate your entire clan." The human king of the Gilded Rat clan said fiercely. The second son of the Li clan snorted coldly and said, "Why bother arguing with him? Let's split up and chase away the demonic beast. We'll try our best to stop him before he reaches an area where he can fly. We can't tear apart space at the foot of the Divine Mountain. As long as he's surrounded, he'll lose a layer of skin even if he doesn't die today." As they spoke, they actually split up, each of them using their martial skills to forcefully drive the human king-level demonic beasts from a distance towards Long Chen. Long Chen looked at this scene coldly, but he didn't fight back. He knew that even if he fought back and drove away the demonic beasts, he would eventually be surrounded by the demonic beasts driven by the other 2 men, and he would ultimately fall into a dangerous situation. Today, he could only swallow this anger. As he ran towards the periphery of the Divine Mountain, he quickly discovered that in the sky above the Luo Yun mountain range, where the Shumi clan was located, the light of a huge formation shot straight into the clouds. If the Luo Yun mountain range encountered the same situation as he did today, once the formation was broken, the people inside would be consigned to eternal damnation. At this moment, he had to return to the formation. If this formation was controlled by him, he wouldn't have to fear the human king-level demonic beast. Long Chen's speed increased again, and his divine transformation stage body movement technique was pushed to the extreme. The few human king-level powerhouses watched as Long Chen gradually disappeared from their sight, and their footsteps gradually slowed down. They snorted coldly and said, "Long Chen's body movement technique is too fast." Li family's eldest brother said coldly, "Now, he naturally has to return to the Luo Yun mountain range." Let's also drive these 5 human king-level demonic beasts over to make up the numbers. Today, even if we can't kill him, we will make the Shumi clan's blood flow like a river." Li Family's second brother frowned slightly and asked worriedly, "Won't our actions anger the Soul Ivy clan? If they think that we have violated the rules, it won't be a joke. More than 10 years ago, there was once a clan that was robbed by another ancient clan on the last day of the 3-month protection period after they returned. However, after only 3 days, the Soul Ivy clan's human king-level powerhouse, who had violated the rules for only 1 day, was almost killed by the Soul Ivy clan, and only 1 person was left alive. Since then, almost no one dared to violate the so-called 3-month protection period. The human king-level powerhouse of the Gilt Rat clan revealed a faint smile, and said indifferently, "You can rest assured. As long as we don't attack directly, the Soul Ivy clan won't have time to care about us now. Also, after the Sacred Mountain opens, the situation of the entire northern region might change. At that time, the Soul Ivy clan's position as the overlord might be replaced by the God Wolf clan. At this moment they might already be in a terrible fix." When the Li family's second brother heard this, he was relieved. The 3 of them looked at each other, and then they actually drove the 5 human king-level demonic beasts across the mountain range unhurriedly toward the Shumi clan. Long Chun was extremely fast. After leaving the no-fly zone at the foot of the sacred mountain, he quickly rushed back to the Luo Yun mountain range. When he saw 4 or 5 demonic beasts that were comparable to human kings continuously bombarding the formation, his entire face turned gloomy. Inside the formation, members of the Shumi clan kept falling to the ground, unable to get up. Some of the Immortal Soul third-level powerhouses who were in charge of the formation were even killed. Long Chun exhaled deeply, and the faces of the various ancient clans who were watching from 10,000 meters above the ground turned gloomy. Long Chun soared into the air and walked into the formation step by step. His cold voice spread in all directions like rolling thunder as he said, "Everyone, I, Long Chun, will remember what you did today. In the future, I'll pay you back double." Long Chen's cold eyes swept across the surroundings as he memorized each and every human king powerhouse in his mind. Many human kings in the sky sneered, and many Immortal Soul third-level disciples who were watching the show mocked loudly, "You're just a brat at the Immortal Soul third level. Do you really think you can run amok in the ancient desolate land? Now there are less than 2 months left. When the time comes, how big of a wave can you create?" 2 of the demonic beasts today were attracted by my Firefox clan. So what? My clan has 6 human king powerhouses. How dare you say such arrogant words? This person is just a country bumpkin from the north of the northern region. He probably got lucky and obtained an incredible inheritance, so he thinks he's invincible. Your mouth is pretty good. I'd like to see if you can survive today, haha. Long Chun stepped into the formation and helped the 100 smelting clan master down from the formation eye. Looking at the blood at the corner of his mouth, Long Chun said coldly, "I came back late. Today, these demonic beasts will all be their gifts to us. The Gilded Rat clan, the Li clan, the Ancient clans, the Firefox clan. I'll remember them all. When the time comes, I'll use the blood of their respective human kings to repay the humiliation today." Chapter 289. Refining the crystal core. The dozen or so human king monsters went berserk as they looked at the humans within the Shumi clan. The human kings and Tao integration stage powerful beings of the various ancient tribes stood in midair. Behind the human kings and demonic beasts, countless attacks could be heard. Relying on their advantage in numbers and powerful attacks, these people forced the demonic beasts to continuously crash into the huge protective spell formation of the Falling Cloud Mountain. The formation, which was originally covered in cracks and flickering with light, suddenly emitted a blinding light the moment Long Chun took over. Everyone in the surroundings was stunned. They felt that not only was the formation not damaged, but numerous formation markings had appeared on it instead, swoosh, swoosh. As rays of divine light shot out of the formation like divine swords, the entire falling cloud mountain actually trembled. The supreme-grade spirit vein beneath it emitted a terrifying aura, which actually merged with the formation in front of Long Chen. Following Long Chen's command, countless rays of spiritual light forcibly condensed into 3 gigantic swords above the formation. As soon as these swords appeared, the Tao integration stage cultivators of the ancient clans turned pale with fright and frantically retreated. Even the 10 or so human kings couldn't help but be shocked. Whoosh, blood rained down. Under the gigantic swords formed by the formation, the 9 monsters were instantly slashed into 2. Their huge bodies collapsed like mountains, kicking up a cloud of dust. Outside the formation, the people of the ancient clans stared at Long Chen's formation and exclaimed, "This sect actually used the power of this formation to link up with the supreme-grade spirit vein. Every slash probably used up 1/100th of the spirit vein's power." Although this clan came from the north of the North region, I didn't expect them to have someone with such mastery of formations. If we can use him in the future, today, the Firefox clan, Li clan, Golden Rat clan, and Li clan have been defeated. With this formation, unless they personally attack, these human king monsters will never be able to break through it. Long Chen slowly walked out of the formation and stood on top of the corpses of the monsters. The ground was covered in blood. He said coldly, "I'll accept everyone's gift. I'll be waiting for your next gift." After Long Chen spoke, he waved his hand in front of the sovereign personages of the ancient clans and took out all the sovereign personages' cores. Then, he turned around and returned to the formation. "Once the protection period is over, it will be the day of your Shumi clan's extinction." Outside the formation, the members of the Firefox clan, the Li clan, and the Gilded Rat clan were all livid. They flicked their sleeves and left, leaving behind only a roar. Within the array, the 3 sect masters and their disciples were furious and worried. They had never thought that entering the ancient desolate land would be so troublesome. Furthermore, there were so many ancient race members eyeing them covetously. Long Chen stared at the crowd and said in a deep voice, "You don't have to worry. This trip isn't completely fruitless. The 20 of you follow me." As Long Chen spoke, the 20 disciples at the Return to Void Pinnacle stage followed behind him. "All of you possess the heaven-engulfing mantra, and the power of your bloodlines is more than sufficient. The demon beast cores in your possession are also more than enough for you to progress from the Return to Void Pinnacle stage to the Tao integration stage. My goal is to help all of you attain Tao bodies." Attain Tao bodies. The 20 disciples and Long Chen stood at the back of the mountain. They were all stunned by Long Chen's words. A few of them even asked in disbelief, "Although we're all at the Return to Void Pinnacle stage and our bloodlines aren't weak, there's still a long way to go before we can attain the Tao integration stage and attain the Divine Spirit. As for attaining Tao bodies, we don't even dare to think about it. To attain the Tao integration stage, we have to shatter our golden cores and attain the Divine Spirit. The heaven-engulfing mantra can help us break through this barrier, but to attain Tao bodies, we have to comprehend the power of laws. The power of laws is extremely mysterious. How can we possibly comprehend it in a short period of time?" Everyone was puzzled. They couldn't believe Long Chen's words. There were so many Tao integration stage cultivators in the 5 major sects, but none of them managed to attain a Tao body. Yet, Long Chen wanted all 20 of them to attain Tao bodies. Yi Hailon suddenly appeared in front of everyone. He stared at Long Chen with his gem-like eyes and said calmly, "Count me in. I believe in you." Long Chen was silent for a moment. Then, he nodded and continued, "In the following period of time, I'll set up a spell formation with supreme-grade crystals. I'll add in the comprehension of the 5 powers of laws, as well as 10 types of divine-level martial arts techniques and battle formations. With your bloodlines, you'll be able to comprehend these things. However, you have to know that once you attain Tao bodies with the laws you've comprehended, you'll only be able to attain the human monarch stage for the rest of your lives. Everyone looked at each other in confusion. They felt that Long Chen's words were getting more and more mysterious. Attaining Tao bodies and comprehending other people's laws? What a joke! As long as they could attain Tao bodies, they would probably wake up laughing in their dreams. As for attaining the human monarch stage, they didn't even dream of attaining it. After a moment of hesitation, everyone nodded solemnly. Then, Long Chen took a deep look at Yi Hailong before he turned around and left. In the following days, Long Chen and Yanli didn't know about the spell formation. They spent 3 days covering the entire back of the mountain. Long Chen even sat in the center of the spell formation and split a portion of his divine consciousness into the spell formation. 20 disciples who were selected entered the spell formation and sat cross-legged. Above their heads there were 5 formless laws that resonated with each other. There were even streaks of sword techniques and martial arts techniques that were faintly discernible. When Yi Hailong was about to enter the spell formation, he was stopped by Long Chen. He said, "You can't enter this spell formation. You have the 1000 severance body. Even if you don't awaken the 7 severance body, you'll at least be ranked in the top 100 on the Bloodline Azure Cloud leaderboard. If you want to attain Tao bodies or even attain the Divine Monarch stage, I have other ways." Yi Hailong looked at Long Chen in surprise. However, he didn't ask any questions. He just quietly followed behind Long Chen. The two of them entered a cave together. Long Chen said indifferently, "There's a crystal core that's comparable to a human monarch here. With your bloodline grade, you'll be able to absorb it if you cultivate with me. If nothing goes wrong, you'll be able to comprehend your own power of laws. You won't need my help or the sky-devouring incantation." Long Chen sat cross-legged as he spoke. Streaks of blue flames on his right hand instantly purified the crystal core in his hand. Then, with a wave of his hand, he covered Yi Hailong's body with it. Yi Hailong's entire body seemed to be bathed in divine light. He looked extremely beautiful. On the other side, Long Chen nodded slightly. All the remaining crystal cores that were comparable to human monarchs floated above his head. They actually exploded at the same time. 1. The crystal cores that were comparable to human monarchs ignited with blue flames. Then, the 8 powers of laws within them seemed to be pulled. They instantly fell towards the dragon soul that was spiraling in his dantian. At the same time, the pure spiritual energy around him that was as boundless as the sea seemed to have turned into water. The 8 crystal cores that were comparable to human monarchs were refined by Long Chen in less than 100 breaths, like the breath of a giant whale. The scales of the dragon's soul in his body actually flickered with divine light again. Not only that, his body actually grew a little. Chapter 290. Times upon the dragon's soul, 18 scales glowed, each containing a type of rule power. Long Chen knew that from today onwards, he would step onto a path that no one else had ever walked before. On the other side, Yi Hailong's entire body was shrouded in dark purple light. Her entire body floated into the air, as if she had entered an ethereal state. Long Chen nodded slightly when he saw this scene. It was just as he had expected. Yi Hailong was extremely talented. If he had enough resources, his achievements would be far greater. Although he had purified the demonic beast core, a demonic beast core that was comparable to a human king still took a long time for her to absorb. Moreover, she seemed to have signs of condensing the power of law. Long Chen took a deep look at Yi Hailong. Without any hesitation, a crystal core appeared in his hand. Streaks of violent spiritual energy surged out of it. There seemed to be an ethereal flame burning above the spiritual energy, which was extremely strange. It was far from comparable to the crystal cores of other beast kings. Roar. However, right after Long Chen purified this beast core with the deviant flame, the dragon's soul in his body actually roared crazily. Dragon roars seemed to resound directly in his mind, creating a strange resonance with his body. Long Chun could feel the dragon soul's desire for this item. The crystal core of a mystical fire beast that has existed since the ancient times is really strange. Long Chun stared at the crystal core that was constantly swaying like a flame totem and swallowed it in one gulp. When the crystal core entered his mouth, Long Chen's body suddenly ignited with a torrential virtual fire, and the dragon's soul in his dantian also began to breathe slowly. Ever since Long Chen activated the power of the formation to kill the 9 human king demonic beasts, the 3 great ancient clans that regarded the gold-gilt rat clan as their beasts did not make a move in advance. The Li clan, the Ancient clan, the Fire Fox clan, and the Gilded Rat clan had a total of 12 human monarchs. The Fire Fox clan and the Gilded Rat clan each had 5 human monarchs. To think that the Shumi clan's clan protecting formation is so strong. There's still a month left before we can make a move. However, if that Long Chun relies on the formation to defend his sect, then things will be a little difficult. The Li clan's eldest brother said in a low voice. The 12 human kings all nodded. Among them, a human king from the Fire Fox clan suddenly laughed sinisterly when he saw that everyone was at their wits' end. Soon after, he said indifferently, "This matter is actually not difficult. We only need to do our best to invite all the great ancient clans near this place. When the time comes, we only need to challenge them. This tribe has only just returned, and they're only supported by a Dao integration stage cultivator. Who among the ancient tribes wouldn't want a piece of the pie? When the time comes, as long as we have a slight advantage, I'm afraid that the other races won't be able to sit still and fight over the falling cloud mountain range." Everyone nodded when they heard this, and they were all relieved. Behind the 3 clans was the God Wolf clan. Now they even had 15 human kings. They were determined to kill Long Chen. Time flew by quickly. As the Li clan and the other ancient tribes spread the news, all the powerful warriors from the surrounding great clans appeared in the sky above the falling cloud mountain. This is the ancient tribe that threatened to destroy the Li clan and the Gold-Gilt Rat clan and the Fire Fox clan? There doesn't seem to be any aura of a human king among them. You don't know about this, right? It's said that the people from this tribe just returned to the ancient desolate land. 3 days later, they passed the 3-month limit set by the Spirit Ivy lineage. The people from this tribe really don't know what's good for them. They're just a bunch of frogs at the bottom of a well. Facing the 3 ancient tribes, they can only face destruction. More and more mocking voices reached the Sumeru clan. Finally, when there were only 2 days left until the end of the protection period, the 10,000 Swords sect's headmaster and the other 2 headmasters had a discussion and secretly left the falling cloud mountain range from the back mountain. Watching the Wanjian sect's sect master leave, the Divine Vein sect's sect master said in a deep voice, "The Divine Arrow Ancient Tribe, the E clan. Because of this tribe, our godly king warriors were all killed. Now that we've returned, we only hope that they can abide by the original agreement. It's fine even if they raise some conditions and make us their vassal." Back then, our ancestor and the ancient E clan were like brothers. If our ancestor didn't use all the human kings to stop them, the E clan wouldn't be able to survive until now. Although they're only 5-star now, they should be enough to protect us. The ancient desolate land was divided into 5 regions. The 4 regions in the north, south, east, and west were ruled by the 4 4-star ancient tribes. In fact, the 4-star ancient tribes that ruled the 4 regions were controlled by the central region of the ancient desolate land, the wasteland. There were countless ancient tribes in the ancient desolate land. The ancient tribes were differentiated by 9 stars. Among the 4 regions, the 4-star ancient tribes were the strongest. Once they reached the 3-star level, they could enter the wasteland. Among the 3-star to 1-star ancient tribes, the strongest of the younger generation was called a Dao disciple. Anyone who could be called a Dao disciple was a rare genius that only appeared once in 1,000 years or even 1,000 years. They also possessed extremely powerful bloodline power. Of course, it was rumored that there were only 2 or 3 one-star ancient tribes in the entire wasteland. For example, Longchen, an ancient tribe that had just entered the ancient desolate land, would be listed as a 9-star ancient tribe. Every time they leveled up, they would be promoted by 1 star. This also represented an increase in the strength of the entire ancient tribe. For example, the Li clan and the other ancient tribes were all 7-star to 8-star ancient tribes. If what the 3 sect masters said was true, and the 5-star ancient tribe of the Divine Arrow ancient tribe attacked, no one in the entire North region would dare to attack them except for the 4-star ancient tribe of the Green Vine clan. The sun rose and set. The number of people in the sky above the Luo Yun mountain range was much greater than a few days ago. All the Dao integration stage experts from the various clans had arrived. It was like a grand event. Inside the cave abode, Long Chen was still immersed in cultivation. Yi Hailon, who was in front of him, had already woken up. At this moment, Yi Hailon's gem-like pupils were actually dark purple, and the coldness around her that made people unwilling to approach her became even more intense. She had already condensed a soul seed in her dantian. Furthermore, she had comprehended the power of laws and refined her Dao body. She stood in the air and stared at Longchen. She did not know how much time had passed. She did not know when she had fallen in love with Longchen. That sense of security was something she had never experienced before in her life. Knock, knock, knock. A series of hurried knocks sounded in the cave abode. Yi Hailon frowned and walked out of the cave abode. She said, "It's time. The various ancient tribes have started to challenge us. They want to see." Yi Hailon frowned and gestured for the person to leave with him. The sect masters of the 100 Smelting clan and the Divine Pulse sect looked at Yi Hailon anxiously and said in a low voice, "Has Long Chen thought of a solution? Those 20 people have already left the array formation. However, even if they break through, how are they going to face the human kings of the various clans?" Yi Hailon replied in a low voice, "Long Chen is currently on the verge of breaking through. We should try our best to stall for time." Chapter 291. The First Battle. Apart from the Shumi clan, all the other ancient clans looked on coldly. Many disciples of the Shumi clan who couldn't make it back in time were killed. Their heads were hung high above the Shumi clan's array formation. 2 human kings from the Li clan leaped into the sky. Looking at the activated array formation, they shouted, "Where is Long Chen? Didn't he vow to destroy the Li clan that day?" Today, 2 human kings from the Li clan have come to ask for advice. The appearance of the 2 human kings from the Li clan made the surrounding people shake their heads slightly. The Li clan's eldest and second brother had already reached the human king realm 30 years ago. If not for their extreme Yin bloodline, they wouldn't have been suppressed to the border of the North region. The Li clan's brothers seemed to care a lot about the Shumi clan. When they first arrived, they were already hostile to them. What's going on? They must be ignorant. The Li clan's third brother became a human king much later than his 2 brothers. His cultivation level is also average. It's said that he died at the hands of the Shumi clan's Long Chen. Long Chen? That's the so-called Dao integration youth, who's only comparable to a human king. It's said that this fellow was recognized by Hun Qianfan. It's a pity that he went against the Li clan and is destined to have a bad ending. After all, the Li clan has already become a vassal clan of the God Wolf clan. The Gilded Rat clan, the Extreme Een Bat clan, the Fire Fox clan, and the Fan clan are all vassals of the God Wolf clan. This Shumi clan is destined to be destroyed today. The ancient clans discussed fervently. They predicted that the Shumi clan would eventually return to the ancient clans and be destroyed in the ancient desolate land. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. 30 Dao integration cultivators from the Li clan flew out and stood in the air. This was an unwritten rule among the ancient clans in the ancient desolate land. When a new bloodline ancient clan stepped into the ancient desolate land, they were destined to be suppressed by the other clans. If the Shumi clan could defeat the Li clan's Dao integration disciples, and if Long Chen himself could defeat the Li clan's king-level cultivators, then the various clans would abide by the rules and retreat. This unwritten rule seemed to be somewhat fair, but in reality, very few people from the clans who had just entered the ancient desolate land could pass the challenge. Inside the Shumi clan's formation, the 100 Smelting Clan's patriarch and the Divine Vein sect's patriarch looked at each other with ashen faces. He braced himself and said, 20 of you, go out and fight. These 20 people were the 20 return to void stage disciples that Long Chen had left behind before he went into seclusion. At this moment, all of them had already reached the Dao integration stage. Even though it was such an unbelievable thing, the two clan lords were not surprised at all. This was because they were facing the 30 powerful cultivators of the Li clan who had condensed their Dao bodies, as well as the other ancient clans who were eyeing them covetously. The sect leaders of the 100 Smelting Clan and the Divine Vein sect knew that the Li family and the ancient clans were only abiding by the rules because victory was in their hands. However, they didn't dare to expect 20 disciples who had just reached the Dao integration stage to be able to defeat the powerful beings of the Li family. So what if they were defeated? The Li family and the other two ancient clans were extremely hostile toward them. However, the only thing that restrained them was an unwritten rule. Once the three ancient clans attacked them, no matter how powerful Long Chen was, he wouldn't be able to withstand the attacks of the three ancient clans by himself. The two of them looked into the distance expectantly, as if they were waiting for the Wanjian sect's patriarch to bring back good news. 20 people walked out, followed by 10 Dao integration stage elders from the 5 major sections. Only then did they reach 30 people. Yanli and Lui stood beside Yi Hailan. They couldn't help but ask, "Does Long Chen really have a way to get through this?" The words he said before he went into seclusion were really arrogant. Now, all the ancient clans are waiting to see us make a fool of ourselves. Yi Hailan looked at the 30 Dao integration stage cultivators who walked out and said in a low voice, if it weren't for him, the 5 major sects wouldn't have been able to enter the ancient barren land at all. It would be even more impossible for so many Dao integration stage cultivators to appear in such a short time. Regardless of whether he wins or loses, no one from the 5 major sects should blame him. Yanli nodded. However, when she saw the terrified looks on the faces of the 5 major sects, she couldn't help but shake her head. Then, she followed everyone's gaze and looked out of the array formation. The 30 Dao integration stage cultivators had just walked out of the array formation when they were greeted by a sky full of attacks. The 30 Dao integration stage cultivators of the Li family attacked them almost without hesitation. Every one of them had already condensed a Dao body and understood a trace of the laws of heaven and earth. In an instant, the Shumi clan cultivators who walked out of the array formation were instantly enveloped by countless rays of spirit light. Miserable cries could be heard incessantly. Rays of divine light shot up. Everyone's pupils constricted. Out of the 30 Shumi clan cultivators, only 10 of them had died. Among them, 20 of them had actually blocked their attacks. Within the Shumi clan, everyone cried out in surprise. They immediately realized that these people who were still alive were Long Chen's subordinates who had just broken through to the Dao integration stage. The 2 human kings of the Li family were also stunned. The people beside them also looked ahead in surprise. They were puzzled. In a short 3 months, this clan has actually produced 20 Dao integration stage cultivators who have condensed a Dao body. How exactly did they do it? Not only that, but they all seem to have condensed a Dao body as well. For a moment, many of the ancient clan cultivators were extremely shocked. The 2 human kings of the Li family said coldly, 20 Dao integration stage cultivators who have condensed a Dao body? So what? Kill them all. As the 2 human kings of the Li family roared, the 30 Dao integration stage cultivators of the Li family attacked again. However, everyone soon discovered that the combat strength of these 20 people was extremely high. Although the Dao integration stage cultivators of the Li family had the upper hand, they couldn't take them down in a short time. These guys are actually all using divine-level martial arts technique. Moreover, they're extremely compatible with the laws of enlightenment. There's even a faint feeling of being drawn by a battle formation. 20 early-stage Dao integration stage cultivators are actually able to fight against 30 mid-stage Dao integration stage cultivators. Looks like this Shumi clan has some foundation. They're not completely useless. However, everyone's voices came to an abrupt end. Streams of blood stained the Shumi clan's array formation behind them. The two human kings of the Li family actually shot out a beam of spirit light at the same time and killed 10 Shumi clan disciples who had condensed a Dao body. Everyone instantly fell silent. They shook their heads and didn't say anything else. Everyone knew that today, no matter what, the Li family and the other two clans would definitely not let this so-called Shumi clan off. Get Long Chen out. We're no longer in the mood to play with you. As the two human kings of the Li family spoke, they were about to attack again and kill all the Dao integration stage cultivators outside the array formation. Chapter 292. Heavenly Flames make a contribution. All the ancient clans looked at Long Chen. They saw Long Chen slashing out with his sword, and a stream of fire appeared out of nowhere. 30 immortal soul third-level disciples of the Li clan were instantly reduced to ashes. The eyes of the surrounding people immediately narrowed as they gasped. Long Chen's rule power was not inferior to that of many sovereign personages. It was truly terrifying. Long Chen stood in the air and stared coldly at the two human kings of the Li clan. You don't seem to want to play by the rules. The two Li clan sovereign personages suddenly moved, sealing off Long Chen's path of retreat from the front and back. The eldest son of the Li clan sneered. You've finally come out. Today is the day you pay with your life. In the Shumi clan, the two clan leaders shook their heads at this scene. They looked at the Gilded Rat clan and the Fire Fox clan standing beside the Li clan. At this moment, Long Chen's opponent was not the Li clan. Is this the brat from the Shumi clan who survived 3 moves from Hun Qianfan? Looking at his aura, it seems like he really has the power of a human king. This brat is indeed extraordinary. His understanding of law far exceeds that of an immortal soul third-level cultivator. However, no matter what, he can't fight against 3 ancient clans and 12 human kings at the same time. In the end, he will still die. Yes, especially the Gilded Rat clan. Ever since this clan returned, they have always been a vassal of the God Wolf clan. The human kings among them are definitely not comparable to those two from the Li clan. Everyone was discussing this matter. They all thought that the Shumi clan would eventually be annihilated. Being targeted by 3 ancient clans at the same time, even ordinary ancient clans would not dare to face them head-on. Moreover, the Shumi clan was really too weak. They only had Long Chen, who was comparable to a human king. The 2 human kings of the Li clan smiled sinisterly. They unsheathed their swords and said coldly, "After we kill you, the entire Shumi clan will be buried with you." After saying that, the 2 of them attacked Long Chen in a frenzy, one from the front and one from the back. The 2 sword lights brought about divine light that filled the sky, and the power of rules spread out in all directions. The surrounding onlookers subconsciously retreated tens of thousands of meters away. Wherever their sword light passed, the air was covered with frost, and the surrounding temperature plummeted. 2 human kings actually attacked Long Chen at the same time. It was enough to show that they were determined to kill Long Chen. Bang! However, what happened next left everyone dumbfounded. Long Chen actually struck out with his sword. Boundless flames burned fiercely, and under the sword light, the entire sky turned red. The attacks of the 2 men from the Li clan actually didn't budge an inch. Both of them felt a strand of vital energy that caused their souls to burn shot directly into their chests, and they turned pale from shock as they hurriedly retreated. Cries of surprise could be heard from the surrounding people. The eldest son of the Li family had a dark expression on his face as he said coldly, "What a powerful nomological power. You're clearly only at the Tao integration stage. How can you have such powerful control over the fire element nomological power?" Everyone nodded and looked at Long Chen in confusion. The three of them didn't use any martial skills in this sword attack. Instead, they used the power of rules to attack each other. However, Long Chen was actually fighting two people at the same time and wasn't at a disadvantage. That vast and mighty nomological power made everyone tremble with fear. After all, he was only at the Tao integration stage. Long Chen was unperturbed. In the past month or so, he had only devoured the crystal core of the mystical fire beast, and this beast's crystal core contained an enormous amount of fire element. A single mystical fire beast's crystal core had actually lit up more than 300 dragon soul scales in his body. Long Chen also knew that this kind of opportunity was hard to come by. However, his current control over the fire element nomological power was far greater than in his previous life. The leader of the Gilt Rat clan, a human king expert, stared at the two from the Li family and said playfully, "The Li family can't be so weak, right? You can't even take down a Tao integration stage brat. Perhaps the God Wolf clan should really reconsider if they want you to become their vassal." "Haha, Brother Jin Song, it's not that serious." An elder from the Fire Fox clan said, "The two of them are just giving it a try. After all, Long Chen is only at the Tao integration stage. How can he be a match for the two of them?" The two human kings from the Li family were livid. They snorted coldly, and with a shake of their bodies, a majestic bloodline power appeared and instantly swept out in all directions. Bloodline true form. The two of them actually transformed into gigantic Arctic bats, and their bodies were more than 10,000 feet long. When the two of them revealed their bloodline true forms, Long Chen couldn't help but frown slightly. Only those who had reached the human king stage could manifest their bloodline true forms. Divine technique, bloodthirsty bone-slaying sword. Divine technique, supersonic slash. The two of them were more than 10,000 feet long and spoke in human language. As their voices fell, the long swords in their hands appeared out of thin air, and terrifying attacks slashed toward Long Chen. At the same time, the two of them pounced toward Long Chen like demonic beasts pouncing on their prey. Wherever their sharp claws passed, even space was torn apart. The sound waves transformed into tens of thousands of sword rays, which fell like a torrential storm. They were formless and colorless. On the other side, the long sword expanded with the wind. The bloody light on its soared into the sky, and it was filled with boundless killing intent and the power of rules. There was no place for Long Chen to stand within 10,000 feet of him. Silver-white scales suddenly appeared around Long Chen's body. The three-eyed thunder dragon's celestial body appeared instantly, and thunder surged on its wings. Do, do, do! At the same time, a blue flame shot up from Long Chen's right hand. The five elements sound wave sword technique actually ignited a raging fire in the air in an instant. The fire was like ice, and it was extremely strange. A terrifying scene appeared. The Li family's eldest brother's 10,000 feet body actually froze the moment he got close. Long Chen sneered. His entire body soared into the sky, and countless flames suddenly lingered on his long sword. Divine fire burning sky slash. Buzz. As his voice fell, the flames in the sky fell like meteors. They landed on his long sword, and then on the Li family's eldest brother. The Li family's eldest brother's 10,000 feet body had nowhere to hide, and he had no intention of dodging. Instead, he relied on his own body's sharp claws to grab Long Chen's attack. The sharp claws were covered with rules, and the attack power was also at the peak. He was not afraid at all. Poochie. However, a terrifying scene appeared. His sharp claws were cut open like tofu, and his huge body was cut into two halves in just a few breaths. The huge body ignited with raging flames and turned into ashes. Under everyone's gaze, the Li family's eldest brother's godly soul immediately escaped, but the next moment, it was caught by Long Chen. How is this possible? He actually killed the Li family's eldest brother with one sword. That sword technique is a 9th grade divine level sword technique. Such a strong fire attribute power of rules, and a sword technique at the peak of the divine level. Is this kid really only at this age? The Li family's eldest brother's godly soul kept screaming. How can this be? A 9th grade divine level sword technique that has reached the pinnacle. You hid your strength. Second brother, save me. Gilded Rat Clan, Fire Fox Clan, what are you waiting for? We can't let this kid live. Boom, crack, crack. Chapter 293. Choosing a tree to inhabit, the second son of the Li clan looked at the spirit in Long Chen's hand and went crazy. The 3 great clans and more than 10 human kings surrounded Long Chen in the blink of an eye. However, at this moment, a bare-chested young man walked out from the forest below them. He had bronze skin, sharp eyes, and a fierce aura. He said seriously, "Master, I'm back." This person was Jian Shisan, who had willingly entered the heart of the mountain without using his spiritual power. At this moment, his body was covered in scars, and only half of the sword in his hand was left. Long Chen looked at Jian Shisan and gradually smiled. He knew that since Jian Shisan had returned, he must have condensed a sword spirit. With the power of his sword spirit, Jian Shisan had probably stepped into the Dao integration stage. Coincidentally, just as Jian Shisan returned, a crack suddenly appeared in the sky. A middle-aged man in a silver-white robe tore through space and appeared. Behind him were 3 arrogant young men. The last to appear was the sect leader of the Wanjian sect. Everyone, stop! The sect leader of the 100 Smelting Clan and the sect leader of the 100 Smelting Clan immediately rushed out from the array, their faces filled with ecstasy. The people who were about to attack Long Chen subconsciously stopped in their track. They frowned as they looked at the people who had suddenly appeared. It's the E clan of the 5-star godly archer clan. Why would this clan come to our border? Although he belongs to the north region, he has never been here before. Look behind him, that's the Shumi clan. It's said that the godly archer clan is very likely to become a 4-star ancient clan after the opening of the Divine Mountain this time. This clan is comparable to the godly wolf clan and the spirit ivy clan. Everyone looked at this scene in surprise. No one expected the Shumi clan, who had just returned, to be able to find a 5-star ancient clan to back them up. For a moment, the expressions of the Gilded Rat and the other 2 clans turned grim. They asked in deep voices, "May I know why the Divine Arrow clan has come to our place?" The silver-robed man did not lower his head. Instead, he arrogantly said, "From today onwards, the Shumi clan is an ancient clan affiliated to my Divine Arrow clan. You are making an enemy of my Divine Arrow clan." As the man spoke, his voice turned cold. Everyone from the Shumi clan breathed a sigh of relief. Only Long Chen's face gradually darkened. The sect master of the Wanjian sect looked a little embarrassed. He walked to Long Chen's side and said, "Long Chen, you don't have to fight to the death. With the protection of the Divine Arrow clan, we can safely establish ourselves in the ancient desolate land." Not only that, the people behind him are human kings from the Divine Arrow clan. As long as we hand over 7% of the supreme grade spirit veins every year, they will stay with us. They have also promised to train you. As soon as he finished speaking, the middle-aged man from the Divine Arrow clan stepped forward arrogantly. He stared at Long Chen and said, "From today onwards, you will be a disciple of the Divine Arrow clan with a different surname. You will still be in charge of the Shumi clan, but you will no longer be called Long Chen. We will grant you a different surname." When the surrounding people heard this, their expressions changed. The Divine Arrow clan was a 5-star ancient clan, and it was highly likely that they would become a 4-star ancient clan after the Divine Mountain opened. Such a powerful ancient clan was actually willing to accept the Shumi clan. However, when they heard about 7% of the supreme-grade spirit veins and human kings, they could not help but shake their heads. This meal was equivalent to turning this place into a second E-clan. As soon as he said this, Jian Shisan exuded a cold aura. He flew to Long Chen's side and said coldly, "Master, let's go." He knew that Long Chen would not agree. Seeing this, the 100 Smelting Clan and Divine Pulse sect leaders hurriedly walked out of the formation and said anxiously, "Long Chen, we know that your ambitions are higher than the sky. However, this is the only way for us to survive in the wilderness. This path will allow you to grow to the best of your abilities. These 3 clans have the Divine Wolf clan behind them. This is the only way for us to survive." Ha ha ha! Long Chen suddenly raised his head and laughed. He stared at the middle-aged man from the Divine Arrow clan and said coldly, "The surname of the E clan? I'm afraid you'll be disappointed." After he finished speaking, Long Chen shook his head slightly at the 3 people from the Wanjian sect and 100 Smelting clan. He sighed and said, "Originally, I wanted to use the people from the 5 major clans as the foundation for the ancient wilderness. However, it seems that everyone has their own ambitions. Since you've made up your minds, I won't say anything more. Long Chen, you'll be digging your own grave if you make such a choice. Look at the 11 human kings around you." The Divine Pulse sect leader could not help but shout. The middle-aged man from the E-clan frowned slightly and said in a deep voice, "Young man, the E-clan has taken a liking to your talent. That's why you're honored. Don't be so ungrateful." Long Chen did not even look at the middle-aged man. He looked at the crowd and said in a deep voice, "I've said that I'll kill all the human kings from the 3 major clans today. I'm not lying. This is also a gift from me to all of you. From today onwards, our relationship is over." Long Chen said indifferently. He was not affected at all. The 3 sect leaders had just made a decision that they thought was right. Everyone had their own ambitions. A good bird would choose a good tree to nest in. Long Chen had already understood this principle in his previous life. He had seen it too many times. He did not blame them. Kill the 3 major clans. After Long Chen said that, the 3 major clans led by the Li clan and the ancient wilderness sneered. Everyone looked at Long Chen as if they were looking at an idiot. They had thought that after the E clan and the ancient wilderness arrived, the Shumi clan and Long Chen would be able to escape unscathed. Who would have thought that Long Chen would not appreciate their kindness at all? Instead, he had completely broken away from the Shumi clan. The leader of the Gilded Rats, a human king, stared at Long Chen with a cold smile. He said to the E clan, "Since this person no longer belongs to the Shumi clan, can we attack now?" The middle-aged man from the E clan looked at Long Chen with contempt and replied, "As you wish." The expressions of the 3 sect leaders changed drastically. Just as they were about to say something, they were suppressed by a powerful aura that rendered them speechless. Long Chen and Jian Shisan stood in front of the 11 human kings without the slightest fear. In an instant, the entire sky was filled with killing intent. Everyone stared at the scene in shock. Is Long Chen an idiot? Or is he extremely arrogant? He wants to fight against 11 human kings with just the 2 of them. Jian Shisan held his broken sword and said to Long Chen in a low voice, "Master, there are 11 of us, and I'm alone. You have 10? Although Jian Shisan had condensed a sword soul, he had only just reached the virtual entity level. Fighting against a human king was probably his limit. Long Chen was taken aback when he heard this. He could not help but laugh out loud and said, "There are 11 of us. You just have to kill those who are in the Dao integration stage. Let me see how much sword soul will you have comprehended during this period." Chapter 294. Come with me. Daodu. Daodu. A desperate voice came from Long Chen's body again. It sounded pitiful. Everyone looked at each other, not knowing what it was. Only Long Chen sneered. He thought to himself, "I'll let you eat them all this time." But today, I want to see the power of the icy blue flame, ranked 73rd on the heaven-burning list of heavenly flames. As Long Chen's voice fell, the spirit shot toward his left arm like a beam of spiritual light and disappeared without a trace. Buzz. The moment it was swallowed, Long Chen's lightning was instantly covered with ice shards, and it was as if flames were burning on the outside. In an instant, everyone felt the terrifying aura coming from Long Chen's body. The second brother of the Li clan, who was the closest, was the first to bear the brunt. His body was instantly covered with ice again. Blue flames burned on the outside of the ice. His expression changed drastically, and the power of laws in his body surged wildly. Unfortunately, Long Chen's sword had already swept past his neck. In an instant, his head was sent flying, and Long Chen's soul was forcefully grabbed by his hand with a sweep of his divine sense. The human kings of the Gold Rat clan and the Fire Fox clan, who were about to attack, suddenly changed their expressions. They instinctively retreated a few hundred meters. A human king expert was killed in an instant. He didn't even have the chance to recover his body. What exactly was that strange icy blue flame? The second brother of the Li clan stared at Long Chen in shock. His spirit roared, "How can this be? How can you suppress my spirit?" The second brother of the Li clan had never imagined that a human king like him would be beheaded and his spirit forced out. Moreover, the person who did this was merely a Dao integration stage cultivator. Long Chen looked at the Li clan's king in his hand. His expression did not change at all. He only said calmly, "From today onwards, in the ancient Desolation Land, the Li clan no longer has a human king." As his voice fell, this soul transformed into green smoke, and its eyes gradually became lifeless. In the end, it dissipated in Long Chen's hand and transformed into the purest energy that surged towards the strange flame beast. The soul of the strange fire beast had fused with the icy blue flame, and it also possessed all the characteristics of the icy blue flame. The icy blue flame was ranked 73rd on the heaven-burning list. Long Chen's combat strength was comparable to a human king. If the 12 people in front of him were only at the first or second level of the human king realm, Long Chen would not be afraid of any of them in a one-on-one fight. However, if he wanted to win against all of them, he could only rely on the heavenly flame. At the same time, screams came from the other side of the crowd. Jian Shisan charged into the group of Li clan cultivators with his sword raised. Facing the numerous Dao integration stage cultivators, he was like a wolf in a flock of sheep. The divine-level sword technique was mighty and unparalleled, but the broken sword was filled with boundless sword intent. With every sword strike, his aura would become even sharper. Within the Shumi clan's spell formation, everyone was completely stunned by this scene. The combat strength of Long Chen and Jian Shisan was simply too terrifying. The middle-aged man from the Yi clan sneered and said, "This kid has actually fused with the heavenly flame. His combat strength is not bad, and he can be considered a promising talent. However, he's too conspicuous. These 3 clans are all vassal clans of the God Wolf clan. Today's battle is simply courting death." After saying this, he paused and said to the 3 sect leaders behind him, "From today onwards, draw a clear line with this person. Don't provoke the God Wolf clan. This clan is not simple." The 3 sect leaders looked at Long Chen and shook their heads helplessly. They were grateful to Long Chen from the bottom of their hearts, but they did not dare to take the risk of going against the God Wolf clan. After all, they had already returned to the ancient desolate land. Bang! 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 Outside the spell formation, a mighty voice resounded for thousands of li. More than 10 human kings surrounded Long Chen. The surrounding spectators had already fled tens of thousands of meters away, looking down from the sky in horror. Long Chen actually relied on the heavenly flame to restrain 10 human kings, and it was hard to tell who would win. Pucci. In the blink of an eye, several hours passed. The corpse of the 3rd human king fell to the ground. There was a terrifying bloody hole in his chest, covered with lightning. The third eye between Long Chen's eyebrows was faintly discernible. Once the bloodline ability hit, even human kings were unable to withstand it. The sky gradually darkened. Outside the Shumi clan, apart from the sounds of Long Chen fighting with the human kings, the entire world seemed to have quieted down. Outside the spell formation of the Falling Cloud mountain range, the entire area had been razed to the ground. The battle between the human kings had caused the ground to sink deeply. Pucci, another human king, accidentally let Long Chen get close to him, and his entire body was instantly sealed in ice. Although he managed to break free in the next second, the space between his eyebrows had already been pierced. What made them tremble the most was that as long as their physical bodies were damaged, their souls would almost certainly be captured by Long Chen. This was also the fundamental reason why Long Chen was able to resist them. Whoosh! At this moment, only 4 human kings were left. The 4 of them looked at each other and actually tore open space at the same time. They actually ignored Long Chen's attack and directly fled. Long Chen's expression suddenly turned cold. He had killed one of them, but he was unable to stop the other 3 from leaving. On the other side, Jian Shisan's broken sword rose and fell continuously. There was no longer any trace of spiritual power around him, but not a single Dao integration stage expert could get close to him. His ordinary sword moves did not require any spiritual power, but they could kill people. The human kings of the 3 clans either died or fled. Before long, only Long Chen and Jian Shisan were left here, within the spell formation of the Shumi clan. The 3 sect leaders and the middle-aged man from the Yi clan all stared blankly at Long Chen. Today's battle was simply too shocking. The 3 sect leaders could not help but wonder if their actions today were wrong. Choosing to become a vassal clan of the Yi clan to avoid the threat of the God Wolf clan was the right decision. However, it was all too late now. Long Chen slowly walked to the front of the spell formation. His gaze slowly fell on Yi Hailon and he said, "Come with me, come with me." These 3 simple words, when spoken by Long Chen, seemed to have lost all the strength in his body. It was as if another shackle had been unlocked in his heart. If he had brought her away in his previous life, perhaps he would not have so many regrets. If he had accompanied her in his previous life, perhaps she would not have died in the Li clan. These 3 words were what he owed Yi Hailon in his previous life. Jian Shisan silently stood behind Long Chen and gently pressed against Long Chen's back. This battle seemed easy, but it was actually extremely dangerous. Long Chen was definitely not as relaxed as he appeared to be. Everyone's gaze fell on Yi Hailon. Yi Hailon's cold and arrogant expression suddenly froze. He stared blankly at Long Chen. For a moment there was silence. Lui, who was standing beside her, pulled Yanli out of the spell formation and shouted, "I want to follow little master." However, she did not notice the disappointment that flashed across Yanli's face. She stared blankly at Yi Hailon, the original holy maiden of the 5 sects. Chapter 295. Entering the Li clan, countless pairs of eyes fell on Long Chen, Yi Hailon, and the others. No one knew why Long Chen wanted to take Yi Hailon away. Perhaps even Yi Hailon himself did not know. The middle-aged man from the Yi clan of the Divine Arrow clan frowned slightly. He looked at Yi Hailon's peerless face and could not help but shudder. He coughed lightly and said, "Although this person seems to have won today, in reality, he has completely fallen out with the God Wolf clan. He killed 3 human kings from the God Wolf clan's vassal clans in one day. I'm afraid you won't have a future if you follow him." Yi Hailon's cold and arrogant face had already regained its calmness. He ignored the Divine Arrow clan's people and stared at Long Chen. He asked, "Give me a reason." Long Chen's eyes were still fixed on Yi Hailon. He gradually revealed a smile and teased, "There is no reason. If you don't leave today, I will use force. Either this human king from the Divine Arrow clan dies in my hands today, or I die in his hands. Today, I will take you away no matter what." As soon as Long Chen finished speaking, Jian Shisan and Lu Yi were stunned. What kind of reason was this? This was simply cheating. Lu Yi gave Long Chen a thumbs up and said, "Young master, you are really shameless to ask for master's wife." Long Chen reached out and pulled Lu Yi behind him. He continued to stare at Yi Hailan. At this moment, the human kings from the Divine Arrow clan gradually turned gloomy. The middle-aged man in the lead said coldly, "Do you think you can fight with us after killing a few human kings at the first or second level? I think you don't want to live today. I will go with you." Before the middle-aged man finished speaking, Yi Hailan leisurely moved and stepped out of the array. The middle-aged man's face was livid as he spoke coldly. The Direwolf clan and Soul Ivy clan have been constantly making preparations for the opening of the Divine Mountain. Once this matter passes, all of you will have no place in the ancient desolation. The three sect leaders couldn't help but shake their heads. Although Long Chen's battle prowess was strong, what awaited them was the God Wolf clan. The God Wolf clan was an ancient clan that could compete with the Soul Ivy clan for the right to rule the North region. The goal of the 5 great sects was to enter the ancient desolate land and rediscover the ancient bloodline. Now that the 3 of them had achieved the first step, they were not willing to take the risk. Becoming enemies with the God Wolf clan was too unwise. On the other hand, as long as they followed the Divine Arrow clan with peace of mind, they would be able to make a name for themselves one day, and they wouldn't have to worry about being harassed by other clans in the northern region. Seeing Yi Hailan slowly walking over, the smile on Long Chen's face grew wider, as if all the weakness and injuries in his body had been swept away. Lu Yi grabbed Yan Li with her left hand and Yi Hailan with her right hand as she jumped up and down happily. Although Lu Yi was only 1 or 2 years younger than Long Chen, she was like a child who only wanted to refine elixirs. She had a pure and innocent heart. Even Yi Hailan liked such a little girl very much. Just as Long Chen and the others were about to leave, dozens of people from the 3 sects looked at each other and walked out of the protective clan array one after another. Among them were the 10 Dao integration disciples who were lucky enough to survive. They had all stepped into the Dao integration stage and condensed their Dao bodies under Long Chen's guidance. "We're willing to leave with you." More than 10 people walked up to Long Chen and said in deep voices. Long Chen looked at the crowd and nodded. Without saying anything, he turned around and led the crowd away into the distance. When the middle-aged man who was the leader of the Divine Arrow clan saw this, he could only heave a sigh of relief. On the other side, the crowd headed straight toward the Li clan under Long Chen's lead. 2 Dao integration cultivators couldn't help but ask, "Senior brother Long Chen, why are we going this time?" The crowd walked slowly in the mountain range. Long Chen and the others didn't choose to fly. On one hand, there were dozens of Void Return disciples in the group behind them. On the other hand, Long Chen took the opportunity to consume elixirs to heal his injuries. Before Long Chen could answer, Jian Shisan said lightly, "We're looking for a place to establish ourselves, of course. The entire North region seems to be preparing for the ancient Divine Mountain. We can't miss this opportunity." The 3 human kings of the Li clan and the ancient clans were all dead. However, there were more than 10,000 Dao integration cultivators, more than 1,000 who had condensed their Dao bodies, more than 100,000 Void Return cultivators, and countless Soul Transformation cultivators. In the North region, the Li clan could be considered a huge existence. At this moment, everyone in the Li clan was in a state of panic. With the 3 human kings dead, they no longer had the capital to establish themselves in the ancient desolate land. Not only that, but the ancient clans near the Li clan had already begun to attack them. Without the deterrence of the human kings, they were like a piece of fat meat in a pack of wolves. In the blink of an eye, a few days passed. When Long Chen and the others arrived outside the Li clan, the entire Li clan was already in a state of chaos. There were countless casualties. There were even 2 human kings who participated in the looting. The Li clan had existed for a long time and was hated by everyone for possessing the bloodline of the extreme Enbat. Now that there were no more human kings, everyone wanted to step on them. Long Chen looked at the few human kings in the Li clan, and his voice boomed like thunder. I, Long Chen, want this place. As Long Chen's voice rang out, everyone in the Li clan was stunned. The few human kings who were slaughtering and looting couldn't help but pause. They moved and appeared in front of Long Chen. The three of them stared at Long Chen and didn't speak for a long time. Then, they looked at Long Chen and cupped their fists. Then, the three of them turned and left with the disciples of the various clans. With Long Chen's arrival, the Li clan, which was originally in a state of chaos, regained its temporary peace. A few middle-aged men, at the peak of the Dao integration pinnacle, walked out slowly. They stared at Long Chen with eyes full of anger and said coldly, "You are Long Chen who killed 3 human kings from the Li clan. What are you doing here?" At this moment, the Li clan's protective array had already been shattered by the attacks of the human kings. As soon as this person finished speaking, close to 10,000 Dao integration pinnacle cultivators rose into the air and stared at Long Chen with anger. Long Chen looked at the 100,000 people of the Li clan and frowned slightly. He said in a low voice, "I'll give you 2 options. Choose yourselves. First, from today onwards there will be no more Li clan. I'll cast an array formation on all the people in your clan who are above the Dao integration stage. Second, massacre the entire Li clan and kill everyone above the soul formation stage." Long Chen's voice was calm, but the murderous intent in it was chilling. If these people were from other ancient clans, perhaps Long Chen would let them live. However, they had the bloodline of the extreme Bat. Once they were chased north of the North region, these people would bring endless disaster. Long Chen's words caused the entire Li clan to sink into silence. Everyone's backs were drenched in cold sweat. They knew that Long Chen wasn't lying. In the past few days, Long Chen had killed close to 10 human kings at the Luo Yun mountain range. His reputation had already spread. Chapter 296. Divine Mountain. Almost 10,000 immortal soul integration cultivators of the Li clan appeared in the sky. Among them, there were 1,000 who had formed their Dao bodies. However, they knew that these people were nothing in front of Long Chen. Those who had formed their Dao bodies might be able to take 1 or 2 moves, but the power of the natural order that they possessed was no match for Long Chen. Once they died, those who had not even formed their Dao bodies would be like mayflies trying to shake a tree. They were not worth mentioning at all. Under the power of the natural order, there would be countless casualties. Long Chen did not say a word. In his previous life, after knowing that Yi Hailon had died in the Li clan, he came out of the Divine Mountain. After breaking through to the Divine King level, he slaughtered the entire Li clan and left for the northern region. Long Chen did not want to be a butcher again after slaughtering more than 100,000 people. However, he had no choice but to do so. This standoff lasted for an entire day. Until the next morning, when the Li clan members saw that the other ancient clans were still eyeing them covetously, they could not help but shake their heads as if they had lost all their strength. They knew that if Long Chen was not here, the other ancient clans would have caused chaos in the Li clan even before Long Chen did anything. "We're willing to submit." Submit? The entire Li clan had lost the protection of their human king cultivators and submitted to Long Chen, who had killed 3 human king cultivators of the Li clan. The people who were watching had strange looks on their faces, but they could only retreat in the end. Long Chen nodded slightly. The Li clan had existed for a long time, and its resources were far superior to those of the Luo Yun mountain range. However, he also knew that although the Li clan and the ancient clan had submitted, everyone was unwilling. After entering the Li clan, Long Chen turned a blind eye to everyone's gazes. He only said indifferently, "All immortal soul integration cultivators, follow me." The Li clan members gritted their teeth, but they had no choice. In the next 5 days, Long Chen used his powerful divine will to plant restrictions on all immortal soul integration cultivators. He could kill them all with a thought. As for the return to void stage cultivators, Long Chen did not do anything. After all, return to void stage cultivators were no longer a threat to them. Looking at the cold faces of the Li Clan Dao integration cultivators, Long Chen said indifferently, "After the Divine Mountain opens, we will enter as the ancient Li Clan." With that, Long Chen turned and left. What is Long Chen trying to do? Did he come to the Li Clan just to enter the ancient God Mountain? Once the primordial God Mountain opens, even the desolate region in the center of the ancient desolate land will send people over. Moreover, all the experts from the ancient clans of the northern region will appear. If he wants to get a share of the loot, I'm afraid only death is awaiting him. The Gilded Rat bloodline and the Firefox bloodline only have 1 or 2 human kings left. Their hatred for Long Chen is also monstrous. At this very moment, the God Wolf bloodline has probably already placed Long Chen on their must-kill list. The Li clan members discussed fervently. Jian Shirshan said to Long Chen, "These people want to kill us too much. Moreover, this clan is bloodthirsty and greedy. If this continues, why don't we?" At the side, Yi Hailan and Yanli frowned slightly. Jian Shirshan's meaning was self-evident. Long Chen waved his hand and said, "Don't worry. When the Divine Mountain opens, we will leave. At this very moment, they probably want us to stay in the Li clan. After all, without us, they would have been eaten up by the other ancient clans long ago. And during this period, we can use the resources of the Li clan to raise our cultivation as much as possible." In the following days, the entire northern region of the ancient desolate land seemed to have calmed down. When the 3 sect masters of the Shumi clan heard that Long Chen had actually entered the Li clan, they could not help but shake their heads. Long Chen's actions showed that he was determined to enter the ancient God Mountain. In their eyes, this was practically suicide. It should be known that the Divine Wolf clan and their vassal ancient clans were all going deep into the mountains. Long Chen's actions were akin to suicide. For this reason, the 3 sect masters even personally went to the Li clan to persuade Long Chen. Unfortunately, they did not even get to see Long Chen's face. Ever since Long Chen entered the Li clan, none of the ancient clans dared to provoke the Li clan. During the battle at the Luo Yun Mountain, Long Chen's reputation soared. Although he was only at the Dao integration stage, none of the human kings dared to underestimate him. In the Li clan's cultivation room, Long Chen and the others took out almost all of the Li clan's resources. Among them, Jian Shirshan's cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds. He, who had condensed a sword soul, could not be mentioned in the same breath as before. On the other hand, Long Chen's cultivation progress was extremely slow. After killing more than 10 human kings, many of the dragon's soul scales in his dantian lit up. In addition, there were also the crystals of the deviant fire beasts from before. At this moment, more than 300 scales on the dragon's soul had lit up. His cultivation could also be considered to have reached the 2nd stage of the Dao integration stage. Among them, the fire element nomological laws were the strongest, all because of the deviant fire beasts. "I've killed so many people over the past few days. Everyone has the power of bloodlines. This 3-eyed thunder dragon technique has also absorbed a lot. Now, it seems that I can condense the overflowing rain green dragon technique before I become a human king. I wonder what the green dragon technique's innate divine power is." Long Chen threw spiritual items of heaven and earth into his mouth. In his previous life, he had narrowly escaped death when the ancient God Mountain opened. In the end, he had directly become a human king expert. In this life, although he had taken a more difficult path, it should not be a problem for him to reach the later stage of the Dao integration stage. When that time came, he could also enter the ancient desolate land's central region, the Waste region. The Jiuyin ancient people where Qing Xian was located belonged to the Waste region. According to Long Chen's memories, the 9 giant corpse tribe appeared in the ancient God Mountain. Time flew by quickly. In the blink of an eye, the day of the ancient God Mountain's opening arrived. The pitch-black ancient God Mountain would always be the most mysterious existence in the northern region. Before the ancient God Mountain opened, even a human king expert would not dare to cross the lightning pool and enter the depths of the ancient God Mountain. Long Chun and the others finally left the Li clan. However, the members of the Li clan all had extremely ugly expressions on their faces. Almost half of the Li clan's resources had been used up by Long Chun and the others. Among them, Long Chun had entered the supreme grade spirit vein to cultivate. He had directly plundered half of the spirit vein's spiritual energy. That day, the Li clan also lost more than 1,000 Dao integration stage experts. They're finally gone. The ancient God Mountain is about to open, and the God Wolf clan will also arrive. We must go to the God Wolf clan and let them have a human king expert. Otherwise, the Li clan will not be able to escape the fate of being expelled. Also, this restriction has to be removed. The God Wolf clan should have a way. After Long Chun and the others left, the hundreds of Dao integration stage experts from the Li clan also left the Li clan. The northern region, which had experienced a short period of peace, once again fell into chaos because of the opening of the ancient God Mountain. All the major ancient clans came one after another. Among them, there was no lack of ancient clans that were 7-star and above. There were even some that were 5-star. Even the Green Vine Ancient Clan, the ruling clan of the northern region, came personally. Chapter 297. The opening of the Divine Mountain. The ancient Divine Mountain was one of the 5 divine lands in the ancient land. The Divine Mountain of the northern region, the Tomb of the southern region, the Divine Tower of the eastern region, the Divine Sea of the western region, the desolate region's corpses. The existence of the 5 divine lands allowed the ancient land to produce many strong cultivators. Countless human kings and even human sovereigns were emerging among the 5 holy lands. The wasteland was the most magical. Almost all the Renhuangs in the wasteland were drooling over it. Once it opened, the entire ancient desolation would be shaken. The Divine Mountain would open every once in a while, but it did not open for long. Therefore, some of the clans in the desolate region did not pay too much attention to it. However, there would still be a small number of 4-star ancient clans and above who would participate. Many ancient clans from the northern region arrived one after another. The pitch-black Divine Mountain stood in the air like a huge, irregular black hole. Ancient clans from all directions arrived one after another. Among them, the Shumi clan from the Luo Yun mountain range was the first to arrive. It was quite close to the Divine Mountain. However, at this moment, the leaders of the Shumi clan were 3 human kings from the Divine Arrow clan. Ever since the Shumi clan submitted to the Divine Arrow clan, no one has dared to cause trouble for them. However, I heard that this clan has handed over 70 to 80% of their clan's resources. They are simply a lackey clan. Lower your voice. The Divine Arrow clan has already sent their strong cultivators here. Do they want to die? Look, the Divine Wolf clan and the Soul Green Vine clan are here at the same time. And the ancient Green Python clan, countless people exclaimed when the various ancient clans arrived. The arrival of the Soul Green Vine clan and the Divine Wolf clan attracted everyone's attention. In the northern region, the Soul Green Vine clan was the ruling clan of the desolate region. Their strength was evident. Looking up, there were at least a dozen ancient clans stationed 10,000 meters away from the Divine Mountain. Among them were human kings and many disciples of the Path Unification stage. However, the moment a group of people walked over, the gazes of all the ancient race beings turned over in unison. The people who came were Long Chen and the others. At this moment, they represented the Li clan. He really came. That day, he killed 3 human kings from the Li clan, 3 from the Gold Rat clan, and the Fire Fox clan. He actually dared to appear. After all, he's only at the Dao integration stage. This Divine Mountain is simply too attractive to him. Amidst the crowd's sighs, The gazes of the Gilt Rat clan and the Fire Fox clan were as sharp as knives as they ruthlessly slashed at Long Chin and the others. The two ancient clans followed closely behind the God Wolf clan. The leader of the God Wolf clan, a middle-aged man, had strange wolf-shaped divine glyphs on his face. He looked at Long Chin immediately. Then, he said indifferently, "This is the youth that you all spoke of, comparable to the Tao child of the desolate domain, the youth who killed nearly 10 sovereign personages by relying on some strange flame?" The remaining sovereign kings of the Fox clan and Gilded Rat clan nodded with sunken faces. "Yes, it's him. There are too many strange things about him." At this moment, Long Chin also noticed this scene and looked towards the God Wolf clan. 4 pairs of eyes met. The leader of the God Wolf clan looked at him with a cold smile, but he didn't seem to care about him at all. On the other hand, a man walked out from the Soul Ivy clan to the side. It was Hun Qianfan from that day. Hun Qianfan smiled as he walked towards Long Chin. He said, "I never thought that I would hear of your magnificent feat as soon as I arrived. I have indeed underestimated you, but I have to thank you this time. You were able to basically cripple 3 vassal clans of the God Wolf clan when the Divine Mountain opened." Haha. Hun Qianfan did not hide his intentions at all. This caused the God Wolf clan to snort coldly. Long Chin smiled faintly. "It's just that 2 or 3 people escaped. It's a pity." The faces of the Gilt Rat clan and the Fire Fox clan completely darkened when they heard Long Chin's words. For a moment, the atmosphere between Long Chin, the Soul Ivy clan, and the God Wolf clan became tense. Rumble! At this moment, the pitch-black Divine Mountain suddenly shook violently. The entire sky seemed to tremble uncontrollably. Hum! Hum! Cracks actually appeared on the pitch-black mountain at the side of the Divine Mountain. The cracks were multicolored and filled with dense spirit energy. It was completely different from the outer layer of the Divine Mountain. The Divine Mountain had opened. Everyone's heart skipped a beat as they stared fixedly at the crack on the Divine Mountain. At the same time, an extremely ferocious beast with a human face, a dragon body, and a candle flame in its mouth appeared. This person soared into the sky with an extremely arrogant expression. He rose up alone, but no one dared to move. Even the Soul Ivy clan, the Overlord clan of the North region, could only wait for this person to enter before they dared to move. The 9 Giant Corpse tribe. Long Chin knew this person's identity at the first moment when he saw him. Hun Qianfan saw Long Chin staring fixedly at him and explained, "The 9 Giant Corpse tribe usually doesn't appear. It's said that the daughter of the tribe will be engaged in 2 months. This person was ordered to search for an item as a congratulatory gift." The 9 Giant Corpse tribe worshipped the divine beast, the Candle Dragon. All the women in the tribe had to find a partner when they reached the age of 18. In his previous life, the 9 Giant Corpse tribe also came at this time. However, they didn't come for Qing Xian's engagement but for Zhu Yinzhong. Long Chin nodded. After seeing the 9 Giant Corpse tribe member disappear into one of the cracks, everyone started to move one after another. The people of the various clans quickly entered. Hun Qianfan stared at Long Chin and the many Dao integration stage and Void Return disciples behind him. Then, he looked at the God Wolf clan and said, "You can enter with the Soul Ivy clan. In this way I can take care of you." Long Chin cupped his fists. He naturally understood Hun Qianfan's good intentions. However, he refused and said, "We're not affiliated with the Soul Ivy clan. We'll enter on our own." He doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Since he doesn't appreciate our kindness, why are we waiting for him? Let's go. Another elder of the Soul Ivy clan glanced at Long Chin contemptuously and motioned for Hun Qianfan to set off. In his eyes, Long Chin simply didn't know what was good for him. There were many secrets and dangers in the Divine Mountain. Long Chin and the others entered for the first time. Even if they didn't face the threat of the God Wolf clan, not many of them would be able to walk out alive. Hun Qianfan shook his head and didn't say anything else. He bid farewell to Long Chen. Long Chen looked at the cracks on his body and said to the people behind him, "I can't guarantee that all of you will survive this time. However, I want to tell you that entering this place will be a great opportunity. It can even allow ordinary void return cultivators like you to directly step into the Dao integration stage and even condense a Dao body. The 10 of you who have already condensed a Dao body have a 1 in 100 chance of directly stepping into the human monarch realm." Long Chen's words were like a bolt from the blue in the ears of the Jian Shisan and the many disciples behind him. Chapter 298. In the Labyrinth Tunnel. Jian Shisan had a fervent look on his face. Among all of them, he was the only one who believed in Long Chen. He was only at the return to void stage. Now that he had condensed a sword soul and used the power of the sword soul to reach the Dao integration stage in such a short period of time, his speed was unimaginable. The 10 Dao integration stage disciples with decent bloodlines also stared at Long Chen. They couldn't help but ask, "We're only at the initial stage of the Dao integration stage. 1 in 100. 1 in a chance to reach the human monarch stage. Is this really possible?" If these words were said by someone else, they probably wouldn't even ask. After all, it was simply impossible. However, Long Chen had shown them too many impossibilities. A 1 in 100 chance to reach the human monarch stage. This chance seemed slim, but in reality, it was a fatal temptation to them. They were only at the return to void pinnacle stage, and had never been able to reach the Dao integration stage. However, with Long Chen's heaven-devouring mantra, not only did they reach the Dao integration stage in a short period of time, but they also condensed their Dao bodies. All of them subconsciously thought that they would be satisfied if they could reach the human monarch stage in their lifetime. However, at this moment, their goal of decades or even a lifetime was actually right in front of them. Long Chen had no intention of explaining. He simply turned and rushed toward a crack in the divine mountain. Jian Shisan followed closely behind him without any hesitation. Then, Yi Hailan followed closely behind. Lu Yi and Yen Li also entered, followed by the 10 Dao integration stage disciples. Is it really possible? Can we really reach the Dao integration stage directly? Or even condense our Dao bodies? The remaining return to void stage disciples looked at each other. They followed Long Chen and left the Shumi tribe because they worshipped Long Chen since they were in the 5 great sections. However, they were not even considered average in the Shumi tribe. Now they had the chance to condense their Dao bodies. Let's go. At worst, we'll die. If we miss this opportunity, I'll probably regret it for the rest of my life. Yes, if I can reach the Dao integration stage and condense my Dao body, I'll have no regrets in this life. One by one, the return to void stage cultivators leaped up the mountain. They couldn't fly, so they had to rush to the crack where Long Chen and the others had disappeared. In the distance, the Divine Arrow clan could not help but sneer when they saw this scene. They said to the 3 sect masters behind them, "Did you see that? The existence that you are talking about is comparable to a Dao disciple. He is simply a demagogue. Even a void return realm cultivator who enters the divine mountain will definitely die. Perhaps he really does have." The 100 Smelting Clan's clan leader subconsciously said, as he recalled Long Chen's past. However, before he could finish his sentence, he was berated by the leader of the Divine Arrow clan. How dare you? How dare you question me? Take some Dao integration stage disciples with you and follow my clan into the depths of the mountains. I'll show you how the return to void stage cultivators behind Long Chen die. After saying that, the Divine Arrow clan also chose a crack in the mountain and entered the interior of the Divine Mountain. After Long Chen and the others entered the interior of the Divine Mountain, they were instantly dazzled by the brilliance of the mountain. A strange fragrance wafted into their noses, and a gentle breeze with rich spirit power caressed them. It made their hair stand on end. Louis, Yenli, and even Yi Halen's arrogant faces could not help but reveal intoxicated expressions. Louis even exclaimed, "This place is so beautiful." As she said that, she actually skipped forward. However, her body had only moved half an inch when Long Chen stretched out his hand and pulled her back. Long Chen stared at everyone and said, "From the moment you step foot into this place, none of you are allowed to move as you please. Otherwise, your life and death will be unpredictable. The four of you follow behind me." Long Chen gestured for Yenli, Jian Shisan, and Yi Hailan to walk behind him. Everyone looked around with puzzlement. This place was like a paradise. It was not as dangerous as Long Chen had described it to be, however. They soon realized that they were not the only ones. The people from the various clans who appeared from all directions actually stood in place without moving. When Long Chen saw that everyone's eyes were filled with doubt, he explained, "This is the interior of the sacred mountain. There are paths in front of us from where we are standing. However, the paths lead to different areas. There are many killing arrays inside, and every step is dangerous." Long Chen pointed at a long path that was covered with flowers under their feet. He casually kicked a stone down. A strange scene occurred. The stone actually disappeared into thin air. It did not fall or shatter. It just disappeared. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air and looked around. At this moment, they were in a ring-shaped space. It was extremely large, and its radius was probably several times the size of the Luo Yun mountain range. There were countless flowers and huge rocks, and in the center of the space was a huge stone pillar. On top of the stone pillar, there were tens of thousands of paths that connected to the surrounding mountain walls. One of them extended to Long Chen and the others. This situation was the same for all the clans. However, everyone now realized that the birds and beasts in this ring-shaped space would disappear and reappear as if they were constantly escaping into the void. The clans were very far away, but everyone could always see each other. It was extremely strange. "Just follow me. This first path is only the path to the middle of the stone pillar. It's not difficult. The other clans should have already made preparations. Let's go." Long Chen gestured for everyone to follow. Long Chen walked directly from the mountain wall to one of the paths where the central pillar was located. However, the moment he stepped into the path, he disappeared. Everyone was stunned on the spot, and only Sword 13 followed closely behind and took a step forward. "Just follow me." Long Chen's voice sounded in everyone's ears again. When everyone stepped in one after another, they felt that there was an earth-shattering change in front of them. The path that was supposed to lead straight to the central pillar had now branched out, and at the end of each branch was a pillar in the middle of the mountain. Long Chen looked at one of the pillars, and a smile appeared on his face. This pillar had a total of 9 levels, and inside it were things that all the clans dreamed of. And he clearly knew what existed on each level. Seeing Long Chen lead everyone and disappear into the path, the leader of the Divine Arrow clan on the other side sneered and said to the leaders of the 3 clans beside him, "The space here is chaotic, like a maze. Once you step in without preparation, it's very likely that you will fall into the black fire. Even a human king can't last more than a breath. None of those fellows have entered this place. I'm afraid that dozens of people will die on the path to the stone pillar before they can walk out." The people of the Shumi clan all gasped and secretly thought that this place was terrifying. However, they didn't know that the reason the Divine Arrow clan brought them into the interior of the sacred mountain was partly because of this path. As soon as everyone finished speaking, the leaders of the various clans began to move. Some took out many talismans while others took out magic weapons. Then, they entered the path intermittently. Chapter 299. Sacred Mountain Opportunity. The huge stone pillar in the center of the sacred mountain was like a bone with countless blood vessels extending from it. All the ancient clans gradually disappeared into the tunnel. Not long after, Long Chen and the rest heard waves of miserable screams. The screams seemed to come from all directions, but also seemed to be right in front of them. It made their hair stand on end. At this moment, everyone looked at Long Chen's back with reverence. They had already reached the end of the tunnel, and were about to step into the stone pillar. However, no one was injured. After passing through every intersection point, Long Chen could easily choose the next path. Soon, the space in front of everyone changed. When they reappeared, the tunnel behind them had already disappeared without a trace. It was replaced by a vast grassy plain. The plain stretched as far as the eye could see, and there wasn't even a single brown stone in sight. Everything was green. Long Chen's lips curled into a smile. This was the first level of the sacred mountain. The sacred mountain's stone pillar was like 9 independent spaces. In the first level, there was one thing that Long Chen had to obtain. This thing was a magic weapon called the Haotian Bell. This bell had an unparalleled defensive power. It would be of great use in the next few levels. However, this bell was broken. In fact, most of the items in the first level were closely related to the mechanisms in the next level. However, ever since the 9 levels of the Sacred Mountain's stone pillar space appeared, no one had ever gone past the 5th level. In other words, although there were 9 levels, no one had ever set foot on the last 4 levels. In this first level, a mechanical beast will appear every 10 meters. Therefore, you must not walk too fast. Otherwise, once the mechanical beasts pile up, it will be extremely troublesome. Long Chen instructed. Everyone nodded. Yi Hailon and the rest looked at Long Chen in shock. Jian Shisan could not help but ask, "Master, have you been here before? How do you know this place so well?" Long Chen nodded and did not explain further. Every mechanical beast will have a primordial stone. Absorbing this primordial stone can help you comprehend rule power. You can try to get as many as you can. After Long Chen finished speaking, he walked into the distance. When he had just walked 10 meters, the grass on the ground suddenly trembled. A green light soared into the sky, and a mechanical beast made of black iron appeared out of thin air. However, Long Chen's footsteps did not stop at all. The sword in his hand flashed with a cold light, and in an instant, the mechanical beast was cut in half. This scene made Jian Shisan reveal a look of awe. Long Chen was also a person who possessed a sword soul, and his use of it had reached the pinnacle. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to cut black iron in half so easily. Everyone started moving as well, following behind Long Chen as they walked into the distance. However, everyone quickly discovered that wherever Long Chen went, there would still be mechanical beasts appearing. Jian Shisan and the others almost subconsciously walked 10 meters. However, they soon saw nearly 100 demonic puppet beasts appearing in front of them. Long Chen frowned slightly and turned back to say in a deep voice, "Pay attention to your steps. Don't walk 10 meters at the same time. Every 10 meters, the strength of the mechanical beasts will increase by a level. At the end, even a human king will not be able to resist a large number of mechanical beasts." Everyone looked at the nearly 100 mechanical beasts and felt a layer of cold sweat appear on their backs. Fortunately, the first mechanical beasts that appeared were not strong. The many-path integration powerhouses used an hour to kill all of them. The moment the mechanical beasts were killed and the primordial stones were taken out, they turned into nothingness and disappeared as if they had never appeared. Everyone obtained nearly 100 primordial stones. These so-called primordial stones were actually green light stones. However, they were warm to the touch and did not have any spiritual power. They were very different from ordinary spirit stones. At this moment, Long Chen had already walked thousands of meters. Everyone followed behind him, and did not dare to move casually. Every 9 meters, everyone stopped. For the 10th meter, they walked in groups of 10. This cycle repeated. Although the mechanical beasts that appeared were stronger and stronger, there were not many of them. They could deal with them easily, but their speed was much slower. Even so, after walking for several hours, no other ancient tribe members had entered the first level. Long Chen had already walked tens of thousands of meters and could no longer see the path they had come from. On the other side, ripples of divine light suddenly flickered in the space of the first level. Finally, the ancient tribe members arrived one after another. The first person to arrive was the 9 Giant Corpse tribe's powerhouse. After this person entered, the other ancient tribe members arrived one after another. However, everyone's expressions were not good. Compared to Long Chen and the others, they were probably in a very sorry state. Hun Qianfan said with lingering fear, "There are so many spatial changes in the passageway of the first level this time. Just entering here alone, our tribe has lost more than 10 path integration powerhouses and dozens of return to void powerhouses." Although the ancient tribe members entered from different passageways, they appeared less than 1,000 meters apart. Many other ancient tribe members nodded in agreement. The space in the passageway was constantly changing. Although they had the help of magic tools, they still made mistakes. Every time they made a mistake, someone would die. On the other side, the Divine Arrow clan's deep throat and the 3 sect leaders' expressions were as dark as the bottom of a pot. Almost 70% of the disciples they had brought in had died. This was because the Divine Arrow clan had actually used them as pathfinders. The middle-aged man from the Divine Arrow clan merely sneered when he saw the ashen faces of the members of the Shumi clan. "Now you know how terrifying this place is. Even Dao integration stage experts have a slim chance of survival, let alone return to void stage experts. Do you see Long Chen among the ancient tribe members here? I'm afraid they're still trapped in the passageway. Even if they're lucky, it's already good that 10 of them are still alive." Not far away, the Divine Wolf clan, the Gilded Rat clan, and the Fire Fox clan snorted coldly. 2 human king powerhouses even said coldly, "It's fine if they can't reach this place. If they reach the first level, it's time to take their lives." The ancient tribe members appeared one after another. Everyone seemed to know where the checkpoint to the next level was. They all turned around and faced the direction Long Chen and the others had walked in a few hours ago. However, compared to Long Chen and the others, they were more troublesome. There were more than a few thousand ancient tribe members here. Once these people moved, they would release a large number of mechanical beasts. Not long after, the Spirit Vine clan, the Divine Wolf clan, and a few 5-star clans stepped forward and formulated a plan that was almost similar to Long Chen's. However, after walking 10 meters and killing hundreds of mechanical beasts, they did not find the origin stones on them. They were extremely young. Almost all of the origin stones disappeared after they killed the mechanical beasts. Only a small portion of them remained. Everyone's expressions gradually turned gloomy. Chapter 300. Haotian Bell. The ancient clans were walking in the same direction as Long Chen and the others. Wherever they passed by, the origin stones on the mechanical beasts' bodies had just formed. Not only were these mechanical beasts' battle prowess reduced, they could even be said to be completely worthless. Many 8-star and 9-star clans who were at the bottom did not continue to advance. Instead, they chose to stay where they were. Walking in other directions, he kept triggering the mechanical beasts. These origin stones could increase one's chances of comprehending the power of laws. They were useful for the return to Void Realm cultivators to step into the Dao integration realm, condense a Dao body, or even step into the human king realm. Someone actually came here in advance. The power of the origin stones here is so weak, and they actually know the direction to the next level. I wonder which great clan they belong to. Everyone started making guesses. However, there were many ancient race members present on the sacred mountain. There were also countless entrances that appeared one after another. No one could be sure if more ancient race members had entered after them, or if someone had entered before them. On the other side, the Jiuyin ancient people didn't seem to want to stay here any longer. Like a phantom, they rushed in the direction of Long Chen and the others. However, although he was very straightforward, the faces of the people behind him turned grim. It was because 1,000 mechanical beasts had appeared under his single layer of 10,000 meters. The crowd watched as the Join ancient people disappeared from their sight, but they didn't dare to say anything. The people from the various clans stared at the thousands of demonic beasts in front of them and said in a deep voice, "Don't move anymore. Let's wait for these mechanical beasts to come over and deal with them together. If he continues to run like this, we will be under too much pressure." It was a pity that the middle-aged Join ancient people did not seem to care about their lives at all. In the blink of an eye, the mechanical beasts in front of them were so densely packed that it almost blocked everyone's vision. On the other side, Long Chun and the others immediately noticed the terrifying changes behind them. Thousands of mechanical beasts appeared at the same time, causing the entire space to tremble. Everyone stopped in their tracks. Not only did this scene give the various ancient clans a headache, it was also a disaster for them. When the middle-aged Join ancient people passed by them, mechanical beasts appeared out of thin air. The middle-aged man seemed to be slightly surprised when he saw them. He didn't expect that there would be such a group of people walking in front of them. Seeing the mechanical beasts appearing one after another at an extremely fast speed, the roars of the mechanical beasts rang out across the plains on the first level. Long Chen looked at the Join ancient people and said in a deep voice, "Your Excellency's actions are too much." The Join ancient people suddenly stopped in their tracks and looked at Long Chen in a daze, because Long Chen was almost standing at the edge of the second level. In Long Chen's hand was a broken dark green ancient bell. The middle-aged man from the Join ancient people stared at Long Chen and said indifferently, "With your cultivation, even if you enter the second level, only death awaits you. Naturally, there shouldn't be so many trash here." After saying that, the Join ancient people seemed to disdain talking to Long Chen and didn't want to waste time. He directly jumped into the second level. Long Chen looked deeply at the man's back, then turned around and walked back with the dark green ancient bell in his hand. This time, his movements were extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, he had crossed 1,000 meters. However, the ancient bell in his hand emitted a green glow that covered his entire body. Not a single mechanical beast appeared on the ground. Not long after, Long Chen saw Yi Hailon and the others. They were exhausted at the moment. If it weren't for Yi Hailon and Jian Shisan, they would have suffered heavy casualties. Long Chen coldly snorted and jumped in front of the crowd. The green glow from the ancient bell in his hand spread out like a tide. The hundreds of mechanical beasts around him seemed to have lost their power and were stunned on the spot. Jian Shisan and the others' attacks suddenly stopped. After seeing Long Chen, they were all delighted. Long Chen nodded to Jian Shisan and the others, then said in a deep voice, "I'll bring you to the second level. Remember, in the second level, don't leave the room until I arrive." Everyone was stunned. Although they didn't know what Long Chen meant, they all nodded at the same time. Everyone took out the origin stones from the hundreds of beasts and followed Long Chen to the entrance of the second level. After sending the people to the second level, Long Chen turned around and returned. No one has ever set foot on the fifth level and beyond. The fundamental reason is that they missed the traps in the first few levels. In this life, with the Sovereign's divine sense and my understanding of this place, I want to see what kind of mysterious existence lies in the last few levels of the sacred mountain. Long Chen couldn't help but feel excited. In this sacred mountain, he was determined to improve his cultivation as much as possible and then set foot in the waste region. Ever since he made a breakthrough in his cultivation from the Li family, he vaguely felt 3 souls calling him. He knew that these were the divine beast battle souls. If he guessed correctly, at least 3 of the 9 divine beast battle souls had found their current bodies in the ancient Desolation Land. Long Chen held the ancient bell in his hand and walked through the space of the first level as if it was flat ground. Wherever he passed, the beasts would be turned back into green light and instantly lose their ability to move. Moreover, wherever he passed, no more beasts appeared. However, This Haotian bell was the easiest item to obtain in the first level because it existed under the portal formation to the second level. There was no danger at all. Long Chen paused his steps and a faint playful smile flashed across his lips. Looking at the protrusions on the ground below, a cold smile flashed across his lips. Then, his long sword slashed down like a rainbow. As his long sword fell, the two human kings of the Gilt Rat clan dug into the ground, along with several Dao integration cultivators. Looking at these Gilt Rats, Long Chen's smile deepened. In his previous life, 5 human kings of this clan came together, and they were the ones who discovered the Haotian sect. In fact, this was also the reason why the Gilt Rat clan had always been valued by the God Wolf clan. Fundamentally speaking, the God Wolf clan gradually possessed combat power comparable to the Spirit Ivy clan. 3 of the reasons were because the Gilt Rat clan had many conveniences in the Divine Mountain. This time, one of the Dao integration cultivators of the Gilt Rat clan accidentally bumped into the Haotian bell under the portal formation on the second level. It was also because of this bell that the God Wolf clan obtained many amazing items in the next few levels in his previous life. The Gilt Rat clan scuttled out from the ground. The moment they saw Long Chen, their expressions turned cold. "It's you. You actually walked in front of us." Long Chen stared at the 2 human kings of the Gilt Rat clan and said, "You 2 escaped last time. This time, you won't have the chance." Long Chen did not expect the Gilt Rat clan to let him go when he had the support of the God Wolf clan. Rather than that, it was better to strike first and subdue the enemy. On the other side, the various ancient clans that were besieged by numerous beasts all focused on Long Chen, who was covered in a green glow. His eyes flickered. Chapter 301. The secret of the first floor. Long Chen held the Haotian bell in his hand as he charged forward. However, not a single mechanical beast appeared. Under the green glow, everyone stared at the item in Long Chen's hand. However, a bolt of lightning caught everyone's attention. Long Chen had just struck the 2 human kings of the Gilt Rats out of the ground, and the 2 of them were immediately covered in ice. Immediately after, a powerful bolt of lightning shot out from between Long Chen's brows and killed the 2 Golden Rat clan human kings. The 2 Golden Rat clan human kings' powerful counterattacks landed beside Long Chen and were actually blocked by the green glow on the Haotian bell. "You're courting death." Seeing the Golden Rat clan's human kings killed by Long Chen in front of everyone, the God Wolf clan's human kings were shocked at first. They were shocked that Long Chen could kill a human king so easily. However, they were immediately enraged. Long Chen did this in front of everyone. He simply did not put the God Wolf clan in his eyes. However, after Long Chen killed the 2 Golden Rat clan human kings, he flew straight to the left. The human kings of the God Wolf clan's human kings released their powerful auras one after another. However, they were blocked by the mechanical beast. Too many mechanical beasts had appeared because of the middle-aged man from the 9 Giant Corpse tribe. Even if he wanted to chase after Long Chen, he could not do so. Otherwise, the number of mechanical beasts would only increase. However, Long Chen stopped in his tracks and looked into the distance. He saw more than 10 Dao integration stage disciples fleeing in a frenzy. Mechanical beasts appeared everywhere they passed. Long Chen frowned. The surrounding ancient clans all sucked in a breath of cold air. If they allowed these people to continue fleeing, the clans would most likely lose many people in this first floor. However, the ancient clans could not move. They could only take the initiative to eliminate the mechanical beasts in front of them. Only Long Chen, with the Haotian bell in his hand, was unaffected by the rules of this floor. Buzz. Just as the clans were killing the mechanical beasts, the sound of a bell rang in everyone's ears. Ripples spread out from the Haotian bell. With him as the center, thousands of demonic beasts dissipated in the air. The dozen or so disciples who were being chased by the mechanical beasts also stopped in their tracks as they panted heavily. It was not that Long Chen was being merciful, but if he allowed so many people to be chased, the entire first floor would probably be thrown into chaos, which would be extremely disadvantageous for him to search for other items. Unfortunately, just as Long Chen was about to leave, several human king-level experts from the God Wolf clan stood out and surrounded him. Even though there were dozens of mechanical beasts behind them, they did not feel as pressured as before. Hun Qianfan's face darkened when he saw the Divine Wolf clan's actions. He said coldly, "If you didn't eliminate all the mechanical beasts in front of us, the consequences would be unimaginable. Why aren't you heading to the second level?" The middle-aged man who led the group laughed coldly and said, "We didn't ask him to do anything. Moreover, even if he didn't do anything, it would only be the disciples of the small clans that perished. My God Wolf clan must kill him today." After the middle-aged man's voice sounded, the many ancient clans behind him began to laugh. Two great five-star ancient clans stepped forward and teased along with the Green Vine clan member. "From the looks of it, you want the green light ancient bell in his hands, right?" The Divine Arrow clan also stood out and looked at Long Chen from afar. "Long Chen, if you hand that item over to our clan, we will definitely ensure your safety." The various clans spoke one after another. As they spoke, the human king-level experts slowly approached Long Chen. With the human king-level experts taking action, there were not many mechanical beasts that were sent out. Everyone could easily deal with them. Long Chen stood on the spot and looked at the greedy eyes of the God Wolf clan and the other ancient clans. He sneered and said, "You guys don't seem to understand the situation." The Haotian bell in Long Chen's hand moved again. Long Chen directly charged out of the God Wolf clan's encirclement. The human king-level experts of the God Wolf clan secretly thought that Long Chen was courting death. The four human king-level experts immediately attacked. Their combat strength was far superior to the human king-level experts of the Li clan. However, the terrifying power of rules bombarded Long Chen's body but was blocked by the dense green radiance. This item can actually block the attack of a human king. My God Wolf clan must obtain this item. The human king-level experts of the God Wolf clan were shocked and became increasingly greedy. The greed in the eyes of the surrounding people became more and more intense. However, everyone quickly understood what Long Chen had just said on the first floor. They were not the ones who had the final say. Long Chen was the one who had the final say. The Haotian bell in Long Chen's hand disappeared. His entire body flew 10,000 meters. Although one could not fly in the air, Long Chen's speed was extremely fast. Every step he took caused grass to fly everywhere. Just as he stopped, close to 1,000 mechanical beasts appeared out of thin air. Everyone was startled. Not a single person moved under their feet. With the Haotian bell in Long Chen's hand, it meant that he had complete control over life and death. Once he ran endlessly in this place, he would attract countless mechanical beasts. Most likely, other than the human kings of the various clans, everyone would die here. The human king-level experts of the God Wolf clan, who were originally prepared to continue attacking, all had ashen faces. Long Chen stared at them. The corners of his mouth revealed a hint of playfulness. He said indifferently, "You don't have to be so anxious to die. There will be plenty of opportunities on the second floor." The human king-level experts of the God Wolf clan snorted coldly and did not say anything else. They glared fiercely at Long Chen and said coldly, "You will definitely die on the second floor." After leaving them with 2,000 mechanical beasts, Long Chen once again headed to the other locations of the doors. Long Chen even had reason to believe that the method to enter the last 4 floors, which no one had ever set foot on, was hidden on the first floor. And this Haotian bell was the key to finding these things. This was enough to explain why the Haotian bell's ability just so happened to restrain the mechanical beasts on the first floor. And why would the mechanical beasts appear every 10 meters? It was so that no one could explore the first floor. Long Chen looked at the Haotian bell in his hand. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that his guess was right. With the Haotian bell, there was almost no restriction on him. In the blink of an eye, He had already traversed 10,000 meters and headed north. The figures of the various ancient clans behind him became smaller and smaller until they disappeared. The huge tree looked around. Everywhere was a green grassland. It was as if every place was exactly the same. Long Chen continued running. He actually ran at an extremely fast speed for several hours. When he stopped, the ground beneath his feet had already lost its green color. What followed was withered yellow branches and leaves, and countless charred dead trees stood on the ground like ghost claws. No wonder no one was willing to explore the first floor. Instead, they followed the same route to the second floor. With the restrictions of the first floor, to reach the fourth floor, I'm afraid the time will be delayed until the sacred mountain closes. Chapter 302. Mysterious diagram. Perhaps none of the ancient clans would have thought that the first level wasn't actually a complete grassland. Long Chen made a rough estimation. Everyone appeared on the east side, and there was also a door to the second level on the east side. At this moment, he was in the north. Judging from the current situation, there must be different scenes on both sides compared to the southwest. With the Haotian bell in hand, Long Chen slowly walked towards the pitch-black withered trees. It was as if this place had been corroded by a flowing fire. Everywhere it passed, everything was charred black. Even the air was filled with a dry aura. Only the withered yellow leaves beneath his feet did not fit in with such a scene. Instead, it gave off a strange feeling. After walking for several kilometers, Long Chen frowned. This place seemed too ordinary. Long Chen tried to put away the Haotian bell and continued forward. However, this time, Long Chen had only walked 3 meters when the ground beneath his feet suddenly cracked open. The charred dead wood from all directions actually grabbed at Long Chen like ghost claws. Whoosh! Long Chen's facial expression changed drastically. Numerous branches of dead wood swept past his body and actually cut open a wound so deep that his bones could be seen. 1. The bell rang again. The moment the Haotian bell appeared, everything returned to normal. Long Chen panted heavily as he looked at the withered trees around him that seemed as if they had never moved before. He felt a lingering fear in his heart. Divine light flickered all over his body, and the wounds instantly healed. If he hadn't condensed his body of great path, those wounds would have been enough to take away half of his life. In the eastern grasslands, there are mechanical beasts appearing every 10 meters, and in this area of dead trees, there are countless dead trees attacking from all directions every 3 meters. Long Chen muttered to himself. In comparison, this place was far more dangerous than the grassland. After all, once one entered this place, the charred and withered trees were everywhere. It was like a forest. Long Chen did not dare to remove the Haotian bell again. He could only rush forward and try to find a different place. The Haotian bell was hidden in the ground under the door to the second floor. It looked very simple, but the divine mountain had opened countless times. Only the gilded rats in his previous life had accidentally run into it. Otherwise, with the door to the second level right in front of them, who would be looking for the so-called treasure below him? If this place was still like this, then Long Chen could only return empty-handed. However, just as Long Chen was feeling disappointed, the strange flame beast on his left arm cried out, "Do do! Do do!" Long Chen suddenly stopped and moved his right hand. The strange fire beast nimbly jumped onto his shoulder. The little guy's eyes were wide open, and he couldn't stop drooling. "What did you find?" Long Chen tried to ask. Little Daodu jumped up and down on Long Chen's shoulder. His short little paws pointed to the distance, and then he started jumping and shouting. Long Chen's feet moved quickly, heading in the direction pointed by the strange fire beast. However, there was still an endless forest of withered trees in front of him, and the withered trees around him were even denser. Long Chen believed that if he were to remove the Haotian bell now, he would be torn to pieces in an instant. Whoosh! However, at this moment, the strange fire beast on Long Chen's shoulder seemed to be unable to wait any longer. It jumped out of Long Chen's body. Its palm-sized body was as fast as lightning. Countless withered trees that seemed to have come alive were set ablaze and turned into ice shards, falling to the ground. Seeing the strange fire beast like this, Long Chen's pupils suddenly shrank, and two words appeared in his mind. Strange fire. The only thing that could make strange fire beasts crazy was strange fire. Strange fire beasts were the nemesis of all strange fires in the world. They survived by devouring strange fires. In a way, strange fire beasts were even a type of strange fire. Countless withered trees in front of them turned into ice crystals, covering the entire withered yellow ground. Long Chen held onto the Haotian bell and followed closely behind. The strange fire beast, whose body was formed by the icy blue flame, seemed to be unstoppable here. Dodo dodo! When Long Chen chased after the strange fire beast, he saw that it was hugging a ball of flame that was as black as ink. The flame was surrounded by a terrifying aura of death. Seeing that the strange fire beast was about to swallow it in one gulp, Long Chen's mind moved, and he quickly shouted, "Wait!" The strange fire beast and Long Chen's heart were connected. Long Chen's mind moved, and the strange fire beast immediately stopped. However, its small mouth was still opening and closing, and its small face was extremely aggrieved. Long Chen's heart softened when he saw this scene. He smiled bitterly and said, "Let me take a look at this thing first. If it's useless, I'll give it to you to eat." It's not too late, unfortunately. Even though he said so, the strange fire beast's small hand still held onto this ball of black flame, unwilling to let go. Its pair of large eyes stared at Long Chen pitifully. Long Chen simply did not take it, and directly covered it with his divine sense to observe. This is the ghost fire of the dead wood, ranked 151st on the strange fire ranking. Long Chen suddenly realized. Every strange fire's divine sense would have a unique mark. In his previous life, there were people who specifically recorded it in the realm of heaven. Therefore, when Long Chen saw the center of the strange fire, he immediately knew the origin of this fire. However, he could not help but laugh, because this fire did not have the slightest trace of divine sense. Logically speaking, strange fires were innate creatures. This fire could turn this vast area into such a scene, and it must have existed for a long time. It was very likely that it had existed at the same time as the sacred mountain. It should have almost no less than a human's divine sense. However, it did not. It could be said that this strange fire only had the shape of a strange fire, and it could never grow again. Of course, this was not the reason why Long Chen was excited. The reason why he was excited was because of the formation pattern carved in the flame. This pattern was the way to open the 6th level of the sacred mountain. Now, it seemed that Long Chen's guess was not wrong. This first level, which everyone thought was useless to stop the weak, actually hid the way to go to the next few levels of the sacred mountain. "Okay, little guy, eat." Long Chen looked at the pair of pitiful big eyes and waved his hand with a bitter smile. The strange fire beast hugged the black flame and swallowed it, as if it was a child who was chewing on cotton candy. However, it was eating the strange fire that was ranked on the strange fire ranking. After the beast swallowed the ghost fire of the dead wood, the second of the 7 colored feathers on its neck suddenly lit up, and its small body grew a little. Then, it climbed onto Long Chen's shoulder again and patted its small belly with a look of enjoyment. Long Chen shook his head and smiled. He held the Haotian bell in his hand and walked to the other side. Although the strange fire beast was reborn, its consciousness was erased by Long Chen. Now, the childlike strange fire beast was actually the consciousness of the icy blue flame. Chapter 303. Feud Long Chen relied on the Haotian bell to travel through the first level, but when he saw the satisfied look on the strange flame beast's face, he couldn't help but smile. He hadn't expected the first level of the Divine Mountain to yield such a harvest. A heavenly flame was extremely rare under normal circumstances, but now, in the Divine Mountain, he had encountered 3 of them in succession. Of course, each of them contained a formation diagram. The 3 diagrams were the ways to enter the 6th and 8th floors respectively. As for the 9th floor, Long Chen searched through the 1st floor but did not find any useful information. Long Chen didn't stay any longer. Holding the Haotian bell in his hand, he quickly walked toward the open door on the 2nd floor. The first 5 levels of the sacred mountain were already known to everyone, so they could easily reach the next level. When Long Chen arrived at the 2nd layer of the sacred mountain, everyone's gaze landed on him. The members of the God Wolf clan revealed sinister sneers. The 2nd level of the divine mountain was a ring-shaped space. There were a total of 99 transparent rooms on the walls of the ring-shaped mountain. From the room, they could clearly see the people from the other rooms. At this moment, Long Chen was standing in a room in the north. Jian Shi-san and the others were not far from him, while the God Wolf clan was eyeing them covetously. At the center of the ring-shaped transparent room was a huge clear platform. There were even traces of blood on it. Simple and unadorned runes covered it, causing it to float in the air. Long Chen, do your Dao integration stage subordinates dare to fight me? The God Wolf clan had been staring at Long Chen since the beginning. The leader of the God Wolf clan waved his hand and motioned for a Dao integration stage expert behind him to sneer and raise his voice. At the same time, on the wall of the transparent room this person was in, like a ripple on the surface of the water, there was no obstruction at all. This person directly landed on the clear platform. 1. As this person landed, a few blood-red words appeared in the void above the battle platform. Divine Wolf Bloodline, 4th Stage Dao Integration Stage, 2nd Stage Monarch Rank and a Soul-Dissolving Pill. The surrounding ancient race tribesmen shook their heads. Indeed, the God Wolf race had still decided to act against Long Chen and the others. You can challenge the 2nd level as you please. The opportunity inside is to defeat others. The more people you defeat, the more rewards you will receive. If you win consecutively, it is said that you can even obtain a deity-grade medicinal pill. That may be the case, but one of those who step onto the platform must die. It seems like the God Wolf clan intends to kill Long Chen and the others from the Dao integration stage onward. The bloodline of the God Wolf is far superior to that of the gold-plated rat and the others. Although it's only at the 4th stage Dao integration stage, I'm afraid that only the swordsman among Long Chen's subordinates can fight it. Moreover, the God Wolf clan still has many human kings. It is said that their leader has reached the 3rd or 4th layer of the human king realm. I'm afraid that even if Long Chen is a genius, he will still die today. Everyone discussed spiritedly. Even the members of the 9 Giant Corpse tribe were watching with interest. Under everyone's gaze, the Haotian bell in Long Chen's hand lit up. After a few leaps, it actually passed through the wall and directly arrived in the room where Yi Hailon and the others were. This scene caused everyone's pupils to contract involuntarily. They became even more greedy for the Haotian bell in Long Chen's hand. In this room, if one did not step onto the platform after leaving the transparent room, one would be directly torn to pieces by the power of the rules within a few breaths. However, Long Chen relied on the Haotian bell to ignore this rule. Long Chen stared at the Dao integration stage martial artists of the God Wolf clan on the platform and said to the people beside him, "According to the rules of this place, everyone will eventually have to fight. Otherwise, they will not be able to reach the 3rd level and will be directly expelled from the sacred mountain. Which one of you is willing to fight?" Long Chen did not intend to force them. The strength of the God Wolf clan was not comparable to that of the Dao integration stage martial artists of the gold-plated rat clan and the other clans. However, this was definitely an opportunity for the Dao integration stage martial artists behind Long Chen to gain experience. "Let me do it." As soon as Long Chen's voice fell, a thin and small man slowly stepped forward. This person's name was Yu Tian. Long Chen had some impression of him. He was one of the 30 bloodline martial artists of the Return to Void Realm. Among the 30 returned to Void Realm martial artists, 10 of them had died in the mountain range, and 20 of them had all reached the Dao integration stage. However, only 10 of them were left now. Long Chun stared at Yu Tian for a while and frowned slightly. However, he did not say anything and only nodded slightly. Yu Tian bowed to Long Chun, then leaped out and rushed onto the platform. As Yu Tian jumped onto the platform, a few bloody words appeared in the sky again. Two-headed wolf bloodline, second stage Dao integration stage. If you win, you will receive a first-grade Emperor-level elixir with a green pattern. First stage Dao integration stage? After Yu Tian stepped onto the platform, a burst of boos came from all directions. Some people were puzzled. The cultivation levels of the Dao integration stage martial artists of the God Wolf clan had been clearly introduced by the rules of the platform. This person was obviously only at the first stage Dao integration stage. How dare he accept the challenge? However, the crowd soon understood the reason. The God Wolf clan could not help but be startled. Soon after, many disciples sneered. Two-headed wolf bloodline? Wasn't this clan wiped out by the God Wolf clan? So there are still people alive. The Two-Headed Wolf clan was the biggest stepping stone for the rise of the God Wolf clan in the northern region. If not for the compatibility of this bloodline with our clan would not have become a 5-star ancient clan in one fell swoop. The God Wolf clan seemed to be quite familiar with Yu Tian's bloodline. When the Dao integration stage martial artist on the platform saw that Yu Tian actually had the Two-Headed Wolf bloodline, he immediately became excited. Yu Tian stood on the platform and heard the mocking laughter of the God Wolf clan. His whole body trembled uncontrollably. When he raised his head, his eyes were bloodshot. Yu Tian clenched his fists so tightly that his fingertips had already sunk deep into his flesh. He said in a hoarse voice, "My clan used to be an ancient clan of the northern region, just like the Shumi clan. At that time, my clan remembered that we shared the same bloodline and saved you and gave you a mountain to live on. However, who would have thought that the root of the disaster would be planted? My clan was slaughtered. You used all kinds of despicable means to repay kindness with enmity. You even used my clan's blood to mutate the bloodline of the Blood Wolf into the bloodline of the God Wolf. This hatred is absolutely irreconcilable. Today, I'm the only one left in my clan. However, when I meet you, I have to raise my sword." Yu Tian's voice was close to a roar. His thin and weak body erupted with a fierce and crazy aura. Long Chun could not help but frown when he saw this. This person's hatred was so deep that he was showing signs of turning into a demon. The Spirit Ivy and many other ancient clans suddenly realized what was going on. However, the God Wolf clan did not seem to have any reaction. Instead, someone shouted, "You can only blame yourselves for being too stupid. What Two-Headed Wolf clan? Since you're the only one left, you should just die." Chapter 304. Blood for Blood. The main reason why the God Wolf clan jumped from an 8-star ancient clan to a 5-star ancient clan was because of the 6-star ancient clan, the Two-Headed Wolf clan. After the rise of the God Wolf clan, the Shumi clan's king of talents withered away and left the ancient desolate land. But who would have thought that with the passage of time, this trip to the Divine Mountain would actually lead to such a predestined showdown? It was a pity that the Shumi clan had become a vassal of the Divine Arrow E clan, and the Two-Headed Wolf U clan was left with only a thin and weak man who still possessed the power of the bloodline. In front of him was the Divine Wolf clan, which was at its peak and desired to rule the northern region. At this moment, Long Chun finally understood why he had left the Shumi clan with him. It was because he had a blood feud. Facing the challenge of the God Wolf clan, anyone could shrink back, but he couldn't. Long Chun stared at this person and could not help but nod slightly. He knew very well what kind of power this kind of hatred could bring to a person. Although this person's courage is commendable, he's only at the second stage Dao integration stage. What's the point of going up against the 4th stage Dao integration stage God Wolf clan? Let's not talk about this person for now. Look at how the God Wolf clan is eyeing Long Chen and the rest covetously. I'm afraid they will not be able to avoid the second level. That's right. All the ancient clans are watching from the sidelines. Unless Long Chen and the others voluntarily give up the opportunity to enter the third level, what awaits them is a battle with the God Wolf clan. While everyone was discussing this, Yu Tian had already launched an attack on the fourth stage Dao integration cultivator from the God Wolf clan. He had a look of disdain on his face as he moved. A blood-red color instantly spread out from his body, and countless blood-red armors appeared around him. This person's body suddenly expanded by several meters, and his face was ferocious. He actually looked like a wolf beast, especially the blood-colored wolf shadow behind him, which actually transformed into a two-headed figure. When Yu Tian saw this scene, his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. The reason why the God Wolf clan could possess such a powerful bloodline was all because of the lives of his clan, today blood for blood. Yu Tian's thin and weak body erupted with a towering killing intent, and the long sword in his hand shot out tens of thousands of rays of light. His whole body shook, and his body, similar to the God Wolf clan, unexpectedly grew several meters in height. On the body of the Leaken, there were actually two Leaken heads, one black and one white. The fur all over its body was black and white, and each hair was like a long sword, flickering with a cold light. With a roar, Yu Tian charged forward. The attacks of the two instantly intertwined, but all their attacks seemed to be restricted, and they were trapped in the center of the floating platform. Bang! The two of them retreated at the same time, and Yu Tian slammed into an invisible barrier. Since the two of them stepped into this place, one of them had to die. Otherwise, it was impossible for them to leave this place. As a Dao integration stage super mighty figure of the God Wolf clan, his speed and strength were greatly enhanced. The crimson shadow behind him made him seem like a pair of twins, making him invincible. In contrast, the power of Yu Tian's bloodline seemed to be weaker. The rays of light released by the two heads and the sharp fur couldn't cause any substantial damage to the enemy at all. The bloodline power of the God Wolf clan obviously had a huge advantage, not to mention that this person's cultivation base was 2 levels higher than Yu Tian's. The spectators all shook their heads. There was basically no suspense in this battle. However, Yu Tian's body only paused for a moment before he rushed out again. With a shake of his left hand, a long spear appeared. Holding a sword in his right hand and a long spear in his left, he didn't feel the slightest sense of disharmony. "Is this all you've got?" the God Wolf clan member sneered, and his figure instantly disappeared. When he reappeared, Yu Tian's whole body was thrown out. The evil aura on Yu Tian's body became more and more intense, and in the blink of an eye, he rushed out again. Seeing this scene, Long Chen frowned slightly. If this continued, regardless of whether Yu Tian won or not, he would be possessed by the demons today. The accumulated hatred of generations had already blinded his eyes. Seeing this scene, Long Chen couldn't help but shake his head. His divine consciousness covered the sky and earth and forcibly landed in Yu Tian's mind. "That day, I taught you a divine-level sword technique. Now, I'll teach you a divine-level spear technique and a secret manual. Open your divine consciousness." Long Chen's voice sounded in Yu Tian's mind like an order that couldn't be defied. When he heard Long Chen's words, he subconsciously didn't resist. Then, a series of shadows appeared in his mind continuously. This was practically a divine consciousness inheritance. Long Chen let out a long breath. This kind of divine consciousness imprint was very similar to the inheritance of alchemy and array formations that he had obtained back then. Yu Tian was blasted out again. Seeing the God Wolf clan member slowly walking over and about to behead him with a long sword, the surrounding people couldn't help but shake their heads. However, this sword was suddenly blocked by the long sword in Yu Tian's hand. Yu Tian said coldly, "Divine technique, sky-piercing spear. Divine technique, green glow soul-piercing sword." Under everyone's gaze, the eyes of the two werewolf heads on Ution's neck, one black and one white, suddenly flashed with unprecedented brilliance. His left and right hands emitted a dazzling divine light. Whoosh! The air seemed to be torn apart. The two divine-level martial arts techniques were actually executed incisively and vividly in his hand. Bang! The God Wolf clan member almost didn't have the slightest reaction before he was sent flying. However, what awaited him were countless spear and sword divine lights. He didn't even have the time to cry out before his entire body was pierced through. However, Ution's attack still didn't stop. He blasted this person into a blood clot. Seeing this scene, everyone was stunned at first, then immediately went into an uproar. This guy can actually cultivate two different divine-level martial arts techniques at the same time, and he has such attainments. Didn't he come from a barren place like the north of the North region? Why does he have two divine-level martial arts techniques, and almost all of them have reached the stage of perfection? It's just that his spear technique seems to be slightly inferior. The God Wolf clan actually lost the first battle. Moreover, it's under the circumstances of being 2 levels higher than his opponent. While everyone was discussing animatedly, Ution turned to look at Long Chen. His eyes were red. With a plop, he knelt on the ground and began to kowtow heavily. This scene was witnessed by everyone. Everyone was stunned and their faces turned pale. Their eyes were filled with bewilderment. Could it be that this Ution was taught by Long Chen? With Ution's current battle prowess, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to call him a genius, especially the two divine-level martial arts techniques in his hand. Clearly, their grades weren't low. Could it be that he also learned them from Long Chen? The God Wolf clan members' faces were gloomy. The few human kings leading them stared at Long Chen from afar. Their eyes were filled with murderous intent. One of the human kings said coldly, "Why don't you let me challenge Long Chen directly? When the time comes, I'll just kill him directly." Chapter 305. The battle continued. The voice of the middle-aged man leading the God Wolf clan spread throughout the second stage. All the ancient clans kept quiet. The ancient clans were gathered here, but everyone knew that the most powerful clans were the Green Spirit Vine clan and the God Wolf clan. The two ancient clans had many subordinate ancient clans, and their combat power was extremely strong. The middle-aged men leading the God Wolf clan were at the 5th or 6th stage of the Human King realm. Perhaps only a few people from the Green Spirit Vine clan could contend with them. Buzz. As the 4th stage Dao integration stage disciple of the God Wolf clan was blasted into pieces, the blood-red light above the platform began to distort slowly, and an elixir shining with golden light slowly fell. It was an Emperor-grade elixir. It was a 2nd-grade Emperor-grade soul-dissolving elixir. The moment the elixir appeared, everyone's eyes involuntarily turned to the platform. Long Chen's eyes narrowed. There were cracks on the elixir, but Long Chen was not surprised. In his previous life, he had obtained many Emperor-grade elixirs from this place. The sacred mountain had existed since ancient times. In ancient times, the genius who used arrays to refine elixirs almost set off a wave. It was not surprising that the elixirs in the sacred mountain were cracked. It was a pity that in this day and age, whether it was the path of formations or the path of alchemy, both had the opportunity to become side branches that were at the end of the stream. Cracking pills were almost extinct. A 2nd-grade Emperor-grade elixir. This elixir is very different from the elixirs in the outside world. Its effect is much better than ordinary Emperor-grade elixirs. The 2nd stage is a place of opportunity for the middle-level and human king experts of the various clans. However, at least half of the people here will be eliminated, or even more. It is very likely that there will be conflicts between the various clans because of this. There were many rules in the 2nd stage. When the sacred mountain opened, countless disciples of various clans had died in this stage. Some of them deliberately killed low-level disciples of the same clan because they wanted to cheat, but in the end, They were directly wiped out by the power of the rules produced by the platform. After countless people explored the second stage, most of the people knew a lot about the rules of the second stage. For example, if one side challenged and the other side chose to give up, and no one took up the challenge, the rewards of the disciples of the same clan would be reduced. Not only that, but if someone didn't participate in the battle, they would still be forcefully sent to the platform and face the life and death battle. At that time, even people of the same race would have to fight to the death, or they would all be obliterated. No one knew how this stage worked, but in this second stage, everyone had to kill at least one person on the platform. In reality, Long Chen was still pondering. Through his divine sense, he had already discovered that the entire second stage was almost completely surrounded by countless arrays. After all of them stepped into this place, they were all within the array's rules. This array's level was extremely high. Even Long Chen, with his array formation inheritance, could only see a part of it, but could not see through it. Of course, this had a lot to do with his cultivation in formations. On the other side, the 100 Smelting Clan Master, who was standing behind the Divine Arrow Clan, stared at the Emperor-level elixir in Yu Tian's hand. He couldn't help but say in a trembling voice, This elixir. I've seen it before." The middle-aged man, who was the leader of the Divine Arrow Clan, raised his eyebrows and said, "This kind of elixir only appears in the 5 divine lands. Even in the Alchemist Guild of the Waste Domain, no one can refine elixirs like this. Are you sure you've seen it before?" Upon hearing this, the 100 Smelting Clan Master turned to Long Chen and said in a deep voice, "This elixir, Long Chen once refined it in the 5 great sects. There are many cracks on each of his elixirs." The people around were stunned when they heard this. The middle-aged man from the Divine Arrow Clan couldn't help but take a deep look at Long Chen and said indifferently, "How old is he? Even if he refined an elixir that looks similar, I'm afraid it can't be compared." The Wanjian sect master shook his head with a bitter smile and said, "We forgot to tell you that Long Chen is actually an Emperor-level alchemist. An Emperor-level alchemist." With the Divine Arrow Clan as the center, the people around were all stunned in an instant, and there was an uproar. "Long Chen, this young man, is actually an Emperor-level alchemist? Are you kidding me? The elixirs he refined have the same cracks as those in the Divine Lands? How is this possible? Long Chen's combat strength is heaven-defying. If he was born in the 3-star ancient clan of the Waste Domain, I'm afraid his talent is comparable to that of the Taoists. But how old is he? How can he be an Emperor-level alchemist? An Emperor-level alchemist under the age of 20. If this matter is known by the Pill Tower of the Waste Domain, I'm afraid it will attract attention." Everyone exclaimed and stared at Long Chen with strange expressions. Some people even couldn't help but shake their heads and didn't believe the words of the two people at all. The leaders of the Divine Wolf clan frowned slightly, and the murderous intent in their hearts grew stronger. The more talented Long Chen was, the greater the danger to them. If such a genius was given a few years to grow, he would become a terrifying existence. Long Chen heard the crowd's words but didn't answer. He just stood there indifferently. He stared at Yu Tian and said, "Come back." Since Yu Tian had defeated one person, he only needed to wait until the end of the second stage to enter the 3rd level. There was no need to take the risk for a few Emperor-level elixirs. At least to Long Chen, Emperor-level elixirs were not worthy of his attention. However, when Yu Tian looked at Long Chen, his eyes were full of gratitude, but also hatred and madness. Yu Tian, will continue to challenge the Path Integration Realm disciples of the Divine Wolf clan." Yu Tian kowtowed to Long Chen twice, turned around, and shouted. He was originally only at the Void Return Realm, but after coming to the ancient desolate land, with the help of Long Chen, he stepped into the Path Integration Realm. However, he was destined to never break through to the Human King realm in this life. The Divine Wolf clan was a 5-star ancient clan and could even compete with the 4-star ancient clan, the Spirit Ivy clan. He knew that even if he reached the human king realm, it was impossible for him to take revenge. Since that was the case, he might as well fight with all his might today. Killing one person was one person, and killing two was one profit. Long Chen was stunned. Yu Tian's madness reminded him of himself in his previous life. He would do anything for a blood feud. However, Yu Tian did not have the body of a Dharch, so he knew that it was impossible for him to destroy the Divine Wolf clan. Today, he could only fight to the death. Buzz. As Yu Tian's voice fell, the blood-red words above him changed. Two-headed wolf bloodline, second stage path integration realm. If you defeat him, you will receive a third-grade Emperor-level elixir, Jade Soul Elixir. Because he defeated a fourth-stage path integration realm disciple of the Divine Wolf clan, the reward for defeating him was increased by the rules of the second level. Jian Shisan, who was beside Long Chen, frowned and stood beside Long Chen. Master, if this continues, he will die. Yi Hailon and the others behind Long Chen also looked at Long Chen. However, Long Chen shook his head slightly. Sometimes, living is more painful than dying. This is his own choice. The surrounding people did not expect Yu Tian to take the initiative to challenge the Divine Wolf clan. He had just defeated a fourth-stage path integration realm disciple of the Divine Wolf clan, and it was already very dangerous. Chapter 306. Cunning. The members of the God Wolf clan sneered. Before the middle-aged man could speak, a disciple of the God Wolf division leaped out from behind him. Soon, his cultivation base and rewards were displayed on the screen. However, Long Chen knew that there was no suspense in this battle, because Yu Tian was already fighting with the mentality that he would die. Sure enough, although this person was a fifth-stage Dao integration realm cultivator, he was killed by Yu Tian as soon as he attacked. Yu Tian's aura soared rapidly, indicating that he had used a secret technique. The God Wolf clan suffered defeat after defeat. Upon seeing this scene, Long Chen said to Jian Shisan, "You should go up as well. This kind of battle will help you improve a lot." Jian Shisan nodded and jumped out. As he jumped out, 100 meters above Jian Shisan, another battle platform appeared and directly pulled Jian Shisan onto it. Jian Shisan, challenge a Dao integration stage disciple of the God Wolf clan. Jian Shisan's sharp aura drew everyone's attention. That day, outside of the Shumi clan, Jian Shisan had single-handedly slaughtered the Dao integration stage disciples of the Golden Rat clan and the Li clan. Second-stage Dao integration stage cultivators without the power of bloodline could obtain first-stage Emperor rank if they defeated them. Everyone was taken aback by the bloody words above the second platform. No one had expected Jian Shisan to not possess any bloodline power. How could an early-stage Dao integration cultivator crush all the Dao integration stage disciples of the three major tribes? For a moment, everyone felt that the people around Long Chen were all freaked. Everyone from the God Wolf clan had an incomparably ashen complexion. Their group and the Soul Ivy clan had not panicked, but now, two of them had been killed by the disciples behind Long Chen. The leader of the Divine Wolf clan was no longer as indifferent as before, and he quickly ordered, "The two of you go down and kill them both." Two disciples of the God Wolf clan descended. Both of them were at the Dao integration stage 8. The surrounding people were in an uproar. Faced with two second-stage Dao integration stage disciples, the God Wolf clan had actually eliminated two 8th-stage Dao integration stage disciples. Hun Qianfan from the Soul Greenvine clan grunted coldly when he saw this scene, and then he laughed with ridicule. When did the God Wolf clan become so thick-skinned? There's a rule between the clans that the challengers of the second test can't surpass the challenger by 3 ranks, yet you directly surpassed the challenger by 6 ranks. The other ancient family members nodded in agreement. However, none of them dared to speak out like Hun Qianfan. The rules of the second level stated that all cultivators of the same cultivation base could accept the challenge. Thus, if a first-stage Dao integration stage cultivator challenged them, theoretically speaking, A ninth stage Tao integration stage cultivator could also accept the challenge. Of course, as a result, the grade of the rewards would drop significantly. For example, if the God Wolf clan killed Yu Tian, they would be rewarded with a third-grade Emperor-level elixir. However, if the God Wolf clan killed Yu Tian, who was only at the 8th stage Tao integration stage, they would probably be rewarded with a 5th-grade King-level elixir. On the other hand, if Yu Tian won, he would be able to obtain a medicinal pill of a much higher grade than the one who defeated him. The middle-aged man from the God Wolf clan snorted coldly and sneered. They're not ancient family members. They're just relying on the name of the Li clan. If you can't stand them, you can fight with me. The middle-aged man from the God Wolf clan was extremely arrogant. It seemed like he was not afraid of the Spirit Ivy clan at all. Hun Qianfan snorted coldly but did not say anything else. He was clearly a little afraid. After all, this was only the 2nd level. He did not want to have a direct confrontation with the God Wolf clan. Upon seeing this, Long Chen's expression darkened. He said coldly, "I've underestimated the shamelessness of the God Wolf clan. Since that's the case, let me see what the God Wolf clan is capable of today." As Long Chen spoke, he actually leaped out of the room. Instantly, the 3rd battle stage appeared in the ring-shaped space. I, Long Chen, challenge a Tao integration stage elite from the God Wolf clan. Tao integration stage. Bloodline. If I win, I'll be rewarded with a 3rd-grade Emperor-level elixir. However, the bloody words above his head puzzled everyone. There was actually no information about his cultivation base or the name of his bloodline. Such a thing had never happened before. However, since Long Chen had stepped onto the battle stage, the God Wolf clan had no choice but to accept his challenge. Otherwise, even if their Tao integration stage disciples won, the quality of their rewards would be reduced by a whole grade. The middle-aged man from the God Wolf clan took a deep look at Long Chen. There was no doubt that Long Chen's combat strength was comparable to that of a human king. With his cultivation base, there was almost no suspense for him to challenge a Tao integration stage disciple. However, a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He said indifferently to someone behind him, "You, kill him at all costs." "Yes." Then, a burly man jumped in front of Long Chen. The moment Long Chen saw this person, a playful smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Tao Integration Pinnacle Stage Cultivation Base, God Wolf Bloodline. If I win, I'll be rewarded with a 7th-grade Emperor-level elixir. This person's spiritual power was faintly surging, and there was also a tyrannical intent. He wasn't a Tao Integration Stage cultivator at all. Long Chen's expression remained unchanged. He said to the God Wolf clan, "Human King? I'll kill you. I'll kill all the Tao integration stage cultivators in your clan today." At the same time, on the other side, Yu Tian and Jian Shisan had already started fighting with the God Wolf clan. Although Yu Tian had already used his secret technique, he was gradually feeling powerless in the face of an 8th-stage Tao integration stage cultivator. On the other side, Jian Shisan's spiritual light was restrained. He was much better off with the power of his sword soul and various divine techniques. In a short time, the battle between Long Chen and the God Wolf clan had started on 3 battle stages. Seeing that it was still early, the people from the various clans didn't have any intention of challenging anyone. Instead, they wanted to see who would emerge as the final winner. Long Chen has the battle prowess of a human king. He's almost invincible against a Tao integration stage cultivator. I'm afraid all the Tao integration stage cultivators from the God Wolf clan will die here, unless they're scared and accept their punishment. The God Wolf clan has already thoroughly studied the first 5 levels of the Divine Mountain. Since they have the intention to target Long Chen and the others, how can they not have any other ideas? Look at that Tao integration pinnacle stage cultivator opposite him. Don't you think he looks familiar? Isn't this person a human king? Why is he on the battle stage with a Tao integration stage cultivation base? Many disciples of the ancient clans suddenly realized that the person on the battle stage was rather familiar. According to the rules of the second level, Long Chen challenged a Tao integration stage cultivator with a Tao integration stage cultivation base. Unless there was no Tao integration stage cultivator in the God Wolf clan, the human king couldn't appear. If a human king accepted the challenge of a Tao integration stage cultivator, all disciples with the same bloodline in the entire space would be obliterated. This kind of thing had happened before. At this moment, the God Wolf clan seemed to have used some method to deliberately lower the cultivation base of this person and deceive the detection of the rules of this place. When Yi Hailan and the others heard the bewildered voices of the various clans, they instantly revealed worried expressions. The God Wolf clan actually had such a trick up their sleeves. This person's cultivation base was probably not as simple as a human king's. Kiki. Chapter 307. Desperate Human King. As soon as the God Wolf clan cultivator finished speaking, he popped several pills into his mouth without hesitation. On the surface, his cultivation level was at the pinnacle of the Tao integration stage, but he actually broke through to the human king stage immediately. However, the blood-red words above the two of them did not change. Then, his entire body emitted a deathly aura. Long Chen sneered. This person had completely lowered his cultivation level before entering the challenge, but now he forcefully raised it with pills. This person did not have long to live. This person did not have the body of a Dharch. Although he was once a human king, after consuming so many pills in such a short period of time, the spirit chi around him had reached an unprecedented level. However, he could not digest this spirit chi in a short period of time. There was a possibility that his body would explode at any time. Long Chen even sensed that his dantian had begun to crack and his meridians were disintegrating. However, this person's cultivation level had completely reached the human king stage. The middle-aged leader of the God Wolf clan sneered. As expected, the rules here do not restrict sudden breakthroughs. The various ancient clans also came to a realization. The rules on the second level were almost all slowly understood at the cost of human lives. Hence, basically no one dared to try anything outside the known rules. A sudden breakthrough from the Tao integration stage to the human king stage was indeed an extremely contradictory point. It was understandable that the God Wolf clan intended to take advantage of it. However, could a human king really defeat Long Chen? Why is the God Wolf clan so confident? Previously, before the Shumi clan, Long Chen relied on some kind of special flame to kill the human kings of the Li clan and the ancient clan. Although that's the case, the Li clan and the ancient clan cannot compare to the God Wolf clan in terms of bloodline or strength. Moreover, since the God Wolf clan dares to send this person out, victory is definitely in their hands. Haven't you guys noticed? The pills this person took, and the deathly aura on his body. Long Chen cannot win this battle. Everyone discussed animatedly and shook their heads. The human king of the God Wolf clan's aura became stronger and stronger. Then, he shouted coldly, "Bloodline true form, appear!" As his voice fell, on the platform in front of Long Chen, a blood-colored demon wolf more than 10 meters long and wide appeared in front of everyone. However, the blood chi around the demon wolf was actually filled with death chi. Today is the day you die. Blood demon wolf transformation. The God Wolf race's human monarch expert had a crazed look on his face as he tossed another pill into his mouth. Now, everyone finally understood why Long Chen would definitely lose this battle. It was because the exalted monarch didn't intend to live at all. He wanted to perish together with Long Chen. After consuming the secret technique and elixir pills, the cultivation of the human king of the God Wolf clan actually reached the third stage of the human king realm. Bang bang bang! The blood-red demon wolf instantly disappeared from where it stood. In the next moment, it charged towards Long Chen like a mountain. For a moment, the entire space began to tremble. The blood qi around Long Chen drowned him in an instant. The sound of explosions and the qi of death filled the entire battle platform. Suddenly, an invisible light screen appeared around the fighting ring and blocked the powerful attack. Is it enough, however, after more than 10 breaths, the blood-red light screen suddenly dissipated. Long Chen was still standing on the same spot, unmoving. Bang! Long Chen transformed into the three-eyed thunder dragon and punched out. The sky was filled with thunder, and the blood qi scattered and exploded in the air. The surrounding ancient clans were dumbfounded. Once again, they were shocked by Long Chen's combat strength. Even when facing the God Wolf race's third-stage human king, he still had the chance to attack. The human king stared at Long Chen with a slightly surprised expression. He said coldly, "Your strength is indeed beyond my expectations. However, this will allow me to play for a while longer. Divine technique, Shadow Blood Claw. Bloodline ability, Blood Wolf swallowing the sky." As his voice fell, a huge blood wolf appeared in the sky above the battle platform. It opened its huge mouth and released a boundless tearing force. At the same time, every corner of the entire space was suddenly filled with countless blood shadows. Everyone swallowed their saliva subconsciously. Although they knew that this person's attack could not break through the barrier of the battle platform, they still subconsciously took a step back. This human king from the God Wolf race was simply crazy. He did not care about the burden on his body at all. After consuming so many elixirs, he actually used all kinds of secret techniques at the same time. Even if Long Chen's combat strength was monstrous, it would be difficult for him to escape death in this battle. Countless blood shadows rushed out, and the entire space was filled with countless cracks. Roar! A roar resounded through the heavens and earth. Long Chen's third eye suddenly opened. The power of thunder seemed to evolve in the void and rushed out from every corner of the platform. Countless electric snakes filled the entire platform. Divine technique, divine sword thunder eclipse. At the same time, Long Chen's roar came from the platform. The surrounding clans were so shocked that they were speechless. They could only see the intertwining light of the blood-red light and thunder on the entire platform. They could not see anything else at all. When the light dissipated, they saw a terrifying bloody hole in the right chest of the human king from the God Wolf race. His left leg was completely shattered. On the other side, Long Chen only lightly wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. This Long Chen. His combat strength has already reached such a terrifying level. Regardless of whether it is his movement technique or his bloodline ability, he is actually not the slightest bit weaker than the God Wolf race, which has a bloodline inheritance. In less than 10 years, this kid will definitely be able to compete with the Tao disciples of the various heaven-defying ancient clans. Although this kid is strong, I'm afraid he will still die in the second stage today. Look at the human king from the God Wolf race. The human king from the God Wolf race seemed to turn a blind eye to the injuries on his body. With the cultivation of a human king, these injuries were nothing at all. As long as his body was still intact, he could recover in an instant. However, he did not do so. Instead, he laughed wantonly. I didn't expect this. Originally, I didn't have much lifespan left. Although my combat strength has decreased, I didn't expect that I would not even be able to defeat a Tao integration stage brat before I die. However, today you will still die. The moment the human king finished speaking, divine light surged from his body, and countless glaring cracks appeared on his body. He had actually chosen to self-detonate at the moment when he had consumed countless pills and activated the power of his bloodline. He wanted to perish together with Long Chen. The entire space around them turned sluggish. In an instant, a violent and destructive aura exploded in the space of the platform. The rumbling sounds were like rolling thunder. The self-detonation of a human king is unavoidable within the space of the platform. There is no way to dodge. Long Chen is finished. The leader of the God-wolf race could not help but laugh. He said indifferently, "He's just a little brat. Does he really think that he can run amok just because he has some talent?" Chapter 308. The beginning of a melee. Just as everyone was looking at the incomparably violent spirit light on the platform. "You think too highly of yourself." Long Chen's voice rang out again. It was still as calm as ever, as if nothing mattered to him. A bell rang out, shaking the entire second stage. Formless ripples spread out like gigantic rocks being tossed into a lake, creating countless ripples. The tsunami-like spirit light storm that was wreaking havoc in the space of the platform was instantly stopped by the green light ripples. The Haotian bell rose slowly from the platform in front of the various ancient race clans, spinning continuously. The clear sky bell rang, and everything returned to normal. All the ancients were dumbfounded. They stared at the Haotian bell in front of Long Chen. The Haotian bell in the center of the platform was glowing with an ancient aura. "It's this bell again. What exactly is this bell?" Long Chen used this bell to ignore the rules of the first stage. Now, this bell doesn't fear the terrifying self-destruction of a human king. This person's battle prowess is monstrous, and his bloodline power is only at the level of the God-Wolf clan. Looking at the ancient bell in his hand, I'm afraid he's also a person with heaven-defying luck. I'm afraid the God-Wolf clan will suffer in the second stage. Long Chen is only a Dao integration expert. If he only challenges Dao integration experts in the second stage, he will be invincible. The surrounding ancient race clansmen were discussing incessantly. All of them stared strangely at the God-Wolf clan, whose laughter had stopped abruptly. The members of the God-Wolf clan stared blankly at the platform. Many human kings had ashen faces and even felt a burning sensation in their cheek. The God-Wolf clan reigned supreme over the northern divine region, and even the Spirit Vine clan was wary of them. Who would have thought that they would be suppressed by a Dao integration stage cultivator on the Divine Mountain? At the same time, the battle between Jian Shisan and Yu Tian also came to an end. Relying on his mighty sword soul, Jian Shisan's sword techniques had reached a terrifying level, and he had actually killed a member of the Divine Wolf clan who was at Dao integration stage 8. In comparison, Yu Tian was covered in blood, but his eyes were filled with madness. The members of the God-Wolf clan were also cut down by his spear and were blasted into pieces. Poochie! Yu Tian spat out a mouthful of blood, and the aura around him had almost dropped to the freezing point. It was as if he would collapse at any moment. However, he couldn't help but laugh crazily. Ever since his clan left the ancient desolate land, their inheritance had gradually been cut off. However, their hatred had never been forgotten. Friendship might be hard to remember, but the betrayal and anger in the bones were passed down in the bloodline from generation to generation. On the 3 battle stages, the God-Wolf clan suffered consecutive defeat. Within the second stage, countless ancient race tribesmen could not help but sigh. However, none of them dared to utter a single word. After all, they were all filled with reverence towards the God-Wolf race. This was only the second stage. There were still 3 more stages. Once they lost the restriction of the rules, only the Spirit Ivy clan would be able to withstand the wrath of the God-Wolf clan. Not only that, but there were also the entire 5 stars great clans outside of the Sacred Mountain. No one dared to provoke the God-Wolf clan. The blood-red words on the 3 platforms suddenly collapsed, and 3 pills appeared out of thin air. They slowly fell down, covered in veined patterns and covered in a golden glow. Everyone was shocked when they saw this. They cried out in surprise, 2 6th-grade Monarch pills, and 1 8th-grade Monarch pills. Everyone revealed a look of surprise and envy. The pills here could not be compared to those in the outside world. Every pill's effect far surpassed that of an ordinary Monarch pill. Long Chen and the other 2 were originally at the early stage Dao integration stage. Now that they had defeated 2 8th-grade Dao integration stage cultivators and 1 human king, the pills they obtained were actually much higher than what they had expected. Long Chun should have obtained a 7th grade monarch pill after killing this person, but it was actually upgraded to an 8th grade monarch pill. Long Chun waved his right hand and retrieved the Hao Tian bell. He raised his hand and grabbed the pills. It seemed that the rules here had determined that this person had broken through during the battle. Although there was no punishment, the rewards after the victory had been increased. Seeing this, the expressions of the God Wolf clan members became increasingly ugly. Not only had they suffered a crushing defeat, but the other party had also obtained a pill with an even higher grade. Good, very good. The Human King elite leading the God Wolf clan said in a deep voice. The few human kings behind him stared at Long Chen with murderous intent. 2 of them seemed to be unable to suppress the anger in their hearts and shouted, "Let me go on stage and kill him." Hun Qianfan sneered when he saw this scene. He said loudly, "Long Chen is now challenging the Dao integration stage cultivators of your clan. It's against the rules if you, a human king, go on stage. Be careful not to be obliterated on the spot." Hun Qianfan's words immediately stunned the person who spoke. The rules here were extremely terrifying. Once violated, not to mention him, even a late-stage human king would probably be obliterated instantly. At the same time, many experts of the Spirit Ivy clan behind Hun Qianfan leaped out. "We challenge the Dao integration stage disciples of the God Wolf clan. We challenge the human king elites of the God Wolf clan." Under everyone's watchful eyes, these people actually challenged the God Wolf clan together. Seeing this scene, everyone was shocked at first, but they immediately understood. Hun Qianfan was going to completely fall out with the God Wolf clan. On the other hand, everyone also noticed the change in the attitude of the Spirit Ivy clan's higher-ups toward Long Chen. Otherwise, with Hun Qianfan's strength, he would definitely not be able to mobilize the Spirit Ivy clan to fight with the God Wolf clan at this time. When 2 tigers fought, both sides would probably suffer in the end. However, they would win Long Chen's favor. At this moment, Long Chen's talent and combat strength had attracted the attention of the Spirit Ivy clan. They even had thoughts of recruiting Long Chen. Long Chen nodded slightly and cupped his fists at Hun Qianfan. This action had almost won a 50% chance of survival for Yi Hailan and the others behind Long Chen. Long Chen naturally knew the reason. However, a favor was a favor regardless of the reason. Long Chen would remember this scene. However, after experiencing the incident with the Shumi clan, Long Chen had completely given up the idea of integrating with other clans. He wanted to establish a clan that could dominate the ancient desolate land. After all, he had sensed the existence of the 3 mythological beast battle souls in the wilderness. Once he reached the wilderness, he would be able to reunite with them. I, Long Chen, will continue to challenge the Dao integration stage disciples of the God Wolf clan. I, Jian Shisan. I, Yu Tian. Voices resounded throughout the second stage. Every member of the God Wolf clan was enraged. The God Wolf clan members roared, "God Wolf clan, accept the challenge. I'll make them pay the price in blood for today's second stage." Vassal clans of the God Wolf clan, listen up. Challenge the Spirit Ivy clan and everyone behind Long Chen. Everyone who opposes the God Wolf clan today will be considered enemies of the God Wolf clan for the next 3 stages. We won't let them off even if they leave the Divine Mountain. Following the roars, the entire second stage finally reached an unprecedented state of chaos. The various ancient clans rushed out one after another. There were human kings and Dao integration stage cultivators among them. Buzz, 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 in the middle of the ring-shaped space, platforms appeared one after another. From top to bottom, they were like layers of stairs in the blink of an eye. Chapter 309. Void Sword. All the major clans made their moves. For a moment, the second level was in chaos. The battle between the Spirit Ivy clan and the God Wolf clan had begun in advance. If it weren't for the protective barriers on every platform, no one present would be able to resist. Even Long Chen couldn't help but frown. The God Wolf clan and the Spirit Ivy clan had sent experts at the 5th and 6th level of the human king realm. While observing the surroundings with his divine senses, Long Chern had killed more than a dozen path integration disciples of the God Wolf clan. At the same time, Jian Shursan had done the same. When the higher-ups of the Spirit Ivy clan saw the potential of Long Chern and Jian Shursan, they couldn't help but nod. They secretly thought that if they could recruit them, the Spirit Ivy clan would have a chance to enter the Waste Domain and become a 3-star ancient clan many years later. The challenge of Long Chern and Jian Shursan made the path integration disciples of the God Wolf clan completely fearful. Many of them chose to forfeit directly. A large number of path integration disciples forfeited. As a result, even if the God Wolf clan won, the grade of their rewards began to decline. On the other hand, Long Chern actually began to point his sword at the human king experts of the God Wolf clan. The human king experts of the God Wolf clan were all livid. There were many restrictions here. In such a narrow platform, the Haotian bell in Long Chen's hand almost made him invincible. As a result, a ridiculous scene appeared. The God Wolf clan, who didn't fear the challenge of the human king experts of the Spirit Ivy clan, actually avoided Long Chen. A few human kings even chose to forfeit directly. Their forfeiture was equivalent to giving up all the resources in the 2nd level. However, the 2 human kings of the God Wolf clan, who had always disliked Long Chen and Jian Shursan, actually stood up despite the opposition of others. One of the human kings directly accepted Long Chen's challenge. As he accepted the challenge, the bloody words above Long Chen's platform instantly appeared again. For a moment, everyone suddenly looked over. This bloody word was actually emitting a golden light, which was very different from the bloody words above the other platforms. Soon, everyone discovered the reason 3rd level of the human king realm. The representative of the God Wolf clan was actually a 3rd level human king, while Long Chern was merely an early-stage Dao integration realm cultivator. The reward this time was actually a deity tier medicinal pill. Heavens! It's actually a deity rank pill. Since the opening of the Eternal God Mountain, there has never been a deity rank pill that appeared in the 2nd trial. Even in a fight between experts at the 6th layer of the human king realm, the winner would only have 2 7th-grade martial monarch pills. However, a divine-grade medicinal pill actually appeared this time. Long Chen's cultivation level is actually only at the early stage of the mythical saint realm. Compared to a 3rd-stage human king, there is a difference of an entire level between them. Even the experts of the God Wolf clan couldn't help but stare blankly when the words deity tier medicinal pill appeared. The participants of the various ancient clans couldn't help but cast their gazes over. The members of the Divine Wolf clan glared at Long Chen and said coldly, "Do you really think that you're invincible? You're just a broken bell, that's all. Once we kill you, our Divine Wolf clan will take your bell." Long Chern revealed a faint smile and shouted loudly, 13, "Do you dare to fight a human king?" Jian Shursan's pupils contracted abruptly. The broken sword in his hand emitted a cold light, making him look like a sharp divine sword. He laughed loudly and said, "Since Master has said so, how can I, Jian Shursan, not dare?" Jian Shursan, 2nd stage mythical saint realm, challenges the human king expert of the God Wolf clan. How preposterous! The only remaining human king expert from the God Wolf clan felt an unprecedented humiliation. It was one thing for Long Chen to be able to fight human kings with the Haotian bell. However, even an ordinary mythical saint realm expert dared to challenge a human king. When and where did the God Wolf clan become cabbages that everyone slaughtered? The leader of the God Wolf clan was being held back by the experts of the Spirit Ivy clan. However, when he saw this scene, he couldn't help but shout coldly, "Kill these 2 at all costs." Buzz. When the human king expert of the God Wolf clan stepped onto Jian Shursan's battle platform with a look of disdain, the bloody words appeared again. Another god-tier elixir. Long Chen and Jian Shisan could now obtain God-tier elixirs as long as they defeated their opponent. After many battles ended, no one started the next one. Everyone's eyes fell on the battle platforms where the two of them were. In the second stage of the Divine Mountain, 2 God-tier elixirs had appeared as rewards in one day. Could Long Chen and Jian Shisan, 2 mythical Saint Realm experts, really kill 2 third-stage human kings? The leaders of the Wanjian sect and the 100 Smelting sect were shocked when they saw this scene. However, they couldn't help but shake their heads. This was also the reason why they had chosen to subordinate themselves to the God Arrow clan. Although Long Chen was powerful, he was too conspicuous. Now, he had started a fight to the death with the God Wolf clan. Even if he could win in the Divine Mountain, what about outside the Divine Mountain? There was an entire 4-star ancient clan outside the Divine Mountain. After the higher-ups of the Soul Ivy clan finished their battle, they looked at Long Chen and Jian Shisan and frowned. What they were doing was too reckless. How could they fight a human king when they were only in the path integration stage? Especially Long Chen, he had the Haotian bell in his hand. Since this human king dared to step onto the battle platform, he naturally had a way to deal with him. As for Jian Shisan, the Soul Ivy clan didn't care. They even thought that he would die without a doubt. However, at this moment, Long Chen's words made everyone's jaws drop. 13. This is a fatal sword move. It's called the Void Sword Soul Slashing. There's only one sword move. If he doesn't die, you will. Long Chen's voice rang out, setting off stormy waves in all directions. Countless people looked at Long Chen as if they were looking at an idiot. He actually wanted to use the same sword strike to kill 2 human king-level experts of the God Wolf clan through the hands of 2 people. Long Chen's expression didn't change. The Void Sword art was rare in the world. Even the sovereigns of the 10 Directions Celestial Domain coveted it. Long Chen had used this sword art to kill the first sword saint of the 10 Directions Celestial Domain and become the sovereign of the 10 Directions Celestial Domain. The Void Sword art was said to have appeared 100,000 years ago and had been passed down since ancient times. After Long Chen became the sovereign of the Dragon Territory, he found it by chance when he was searching for the Primal Chaos Golden Codex. However, he only obtained 3 of the swords. No one had seen the last 6 swords. No one even knew if they really existed. The most basic condition for cultivating the Void Sword art was the Sword Soul Good. I want to see how the 2 of you can kill us with one sword move. The 2 human king experts of the God Wolf clan's aura suddenly rose to the peak. The power of the rules surrounded them. The 2 human kings intended to suppress them with the power of their realms. With his understanding of the rules, Long Chen was not afraid of the rules used by the human king realm expert. However, Jian Shisan was unable to do so. His entire body slammed heavily against the barrier. With his cultivation base, it was already his limit to defeat a late-stage Dao integration realm expert. He was somewhat powerless against a human king. Chapter 310. Solicitation. A single rule force sent Jian Shisan flying, and the crowd immediately booed. I don't know about Long Chen, but he actually wants to impart swordsmanship at this time. This is simply sending Jian Shisan to his death. This Jian Shisan's talent is also amazing, but why does he want to take Long Chen as his master? How old is he? Long Chen has the ancient bell in his hands, so he can naturally escape unscathed. But his disciple is in trouble. Shut up. Right when the discussions in the surroundings were endless, Sword 13 leaped up and swept out with his sword as he said with a cold voice, "It isn't up to all of you to evaluate how my master is." Jian Shisan's aura, which was as sharp as a sword, startled everyone and made them shut their mouths subconsciously. They didn't know what kind of position Long Chen had in Jian Shisan's heart. Seeing that the human king realm experts of the God Wolf clan behind Jian Shisan were about to attack again, Long Chen's calm voice entered everyone's ears. Under everyone's gaze, Long Chen actually put away the Haotian bell in front of him, and the long sword in his hand moved slowly. Using the soul to control the sword user can cut down all things in the world. Wood can be cut, people can be slaughtered, and the soul can be used to battle. Swordsman, battle the heavens. Slash the heavens, battle the earth, battle slash. Slash the universe. Long Chen's voice spread out one after another. Everyone felt like they were in the clouds and did not know what he was talking about. His calm words seemed to be explaining the true meaning of the way of the sword, and there was no mention of martial arts. His right hand gradually began to move on the other side, Jian Shisan's burning eyes gradually turned blank, and the broken sword in his right hand began to move slowly. Their movements were almost exactly the same, and even their breaths seemed to be synchronized. However, there was not a single trace of spiritual energy around the two of them. Everyone looked at each other and stared at the two men. For some reason, a chill crept up their spines, but Long Chen and Jian Shisan's movements on the stage were still terrifyingly slow. No one believed that they would actually use such a laughable sword technique to defeat a human king who had already comprehended the power of laws. This was simply a pipe dream. Stop pretending! The two human kings from the Divine Wolf clan couldn't help but laugh as they brandished their weapons and charged towards Long Chen and Long Chen. However, the moment the two rushed out, Long Chen and Jian Shisan both slashed their swords forward. A sword slashed across the crescent moon. A gentle breeze blew by, fluttering Long Chen's clothes and Jian Shisan's long hair. Gradually, the breeze blew to everyone's side. Everyone present could feel the breeze. Although the breeze was weak, it didn't feel like a spring breeze. Instead, it felt like a cold winter blade that ruthlessly slashed at their souls. Poochie, poochie! In all directions, Wei integration stage disciples vomited blood and fell to the ground. Even the human kings from the various clans in the distance couldn't help but turn pale as they stared ahead in horror. Long Chen's sword fell. Jian Shisan crashed to the ground. If not for his weak breathing, everyone would have thought that he was already dead. When everyone saw Jian Shisan's body being sent back to his original room by the power of laws, they all stared ahead. He had left the stage alive. In other words, the human king from the Divine Wolf clan was dead. On the other side, Long Chen was panting heavily. The light in his eyes was sometimes dim and sometimes bright. This sword technique was the first move of the formless sword technique. It was completely executed with the power of the sword soul. It could directly kill a person's soul, but it would consume a lot of the user's sword soul. In fact, Long Chen could have easily killed Jian Shisan by relying on the ancient bell. However, he didn't do so because he wanted to impart this sword technique to Jian Shisan. Facing a human king, it was very likely that Jian Shisan would use the formless sword technique in a life-and-death situation. Seeing Jian Shisan unconscious, Long Chen revealed a gratified smile. Jian Shisan's talent in sword Dao was extremely high. Furthermore, he had a sword Dao heart. His dedication to sword Dao was already deeply ingrained in his bones. Long Chen even had a faint feeling that Jian Shisan would surpass him in sword Dao one day and become the strongest sword sage of this generation. This was why Long Chen nurtured him so much and even imparted the formless sword technique to him in this competition. And Jian Shisan really did use the formless sword technique. The surroundings were silent. Everyone fell into a daze. This sword technique was really too shocking. Two-way integration stage experts killed two human kings with the same sword technique. It was not an exaggeration to say that this sword technique could shock heaven and earth and make ghosts and gods weep. At the same time, under everyone's gaze, two elixirs that flickered with a clear divine light slowly fell. Clear light. These were divine-level elixirs. Everyone watched as one of the elixirs fell into Long Chen's hand and the other floated through the barrier of rules and fell into Jian Shisan's hand. Everyone's eyes flashed with greed. In the second stage of the battle stage, the human king experts fought to the death. However, one could obtain an elixir above the 6th stage of the monarch level. From this, one could see the value of a divine level elixir. Long Chen put away the elixirs and slowly retreated from the platform and returned to his room. At the same time, the leader of the Spirit Ivy clan directly shouted at Long Chen, "I, Hunjan, as the main bloodline of the Spirit Ivy clan, would like to extend an invitation to Brother Long Chen. As long as you are willing to join our Spirit Ivy clan, you can use all the resources at will. We are also willing to accept all the people behind you. If you are not willing to join our Spirit Ivy clan, our clan can also find a supreme-grade Spirit Vein Mountain Gate for you. What do you think?" The Spirit Ivy clan's Hunjan did not conceal his voice at all. The ancient clans in all directions sighed. Everyone was amazed. The Spirit Ivy clan was a 4-star overlord clan in the northern region. If Long Chen could obtain this clan's olive branch, he could do whatever he wanted in the northern region. He did not even have to worry about the God Wolf clan. Hun Qianfan also looked at Long Chen with a bitter smile. Originally, Hun Zhan did not allow him to speak to Long Chen, this arrogant person. Now, Hun Zhan was personally recruiting him. On the other side, the Divine Arrow clan's face turned ashen. Long Chen was a disciple of the Shumi clan. He even thought that if he had spoken nicely to Long Chen back then, Long Chen might not have left at all. The Wanjian sects and 100 Smelting sects sect masters' faces did not look good either. If they had known this would happen, they would not have relied on the Divine Arrow clan and allowed themselves to be exploited. After all, the Soul Ivy clan was his true backer. Long Chen smiled bitterly. The Spirit Ivy clan's words were forcing him to make a choice. It was a pity that Long Chen was unwilling to submit to others. There was no such thing as a free lunch in the world. Long Chen said indifferently, "Long Chen will remember today's kindness in my heart. I will definitely repay it in the future. However, we will find an opportunity to establish our own clan. We are not willing to be subordinate to any clan." When Long Chen's voice rang out, the ancient clans could not help but rub their ears. Long Chen had actually rejected such conditions. He had rejected the Spirit Ivy clan's generous offer. Even the God Wolf clan was stunned. Although Long Chen's battle power was strong, he was alone after all. He might be able to take some advantage in the Sacred Mountain today. However, once he walked out of the Sacred Mountain, how could he be the enemy of the entire God Wolf clan? Chapter 3:11. Weapon Domain. No one had expected that Long Chen would actually reject the Soul Ivy clan's recruitment in front of everyone. The expressions of the few middle-aged men from the upper echelons of the Soul Green Vine sank. The person in the lead no longer spoke kindly as he said in a deep voice, "Do you know what this choice of yours represents?" Long Chen did not answer, but his meaning was self-evident. The surrounding ancient clans could not help but shake their heads when they saw Long Chen's decision. They felt that this decision was too irrational. The middle-aged leader of the Divine Arrow clan, who had been annoyed just a moment ago, sneered and said, "Fortunately, you didn't follow Long Chen back then. Otherwise, you would have been killed by his arrogance sooner or later. He doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth." The 3 leaders of the 100 Smelting clan didn't know why, but they felt a faint sigh of relief in their hearts. Then, they looked at Long Chen and the others and shook their heads without saying anything. Long Chen and the others made the God Wolf clan suffer a great loss in the second round, while the Spirit Ivy clan gained a lot of advantages. At the same time, the battle between the various ancient clans started again. The number of people in the second stage had to be reduced by at least half. In reality, this was far from the truth. Although the sovereign personages of the various clans held back and did their best not to fight against those of a higher grade than themselves, there was still a chance that half of them would die. On the contrary, the number of Dao integration stage cultivators who had died was far more than the average number. Many of them had even challenged the Dao integration stage cultivators one after another, all for the sake of obtaining the pills that were rewarded here. Emperor tier pills were extremely tempting to Tao integration realm cultivators. As the various ancient clans started fighting again, Long Chen looked at the disciples in the room behind him. Since they had entered the sacred mountain this time, everyone had been prepared for life and death. This second level was actually not friendly to them. Time flew by. Amidst the sounds of battle, the entire second level was filled with the smell of fresh blood. More than half of the Return to Void stage disciples behind Long Chen had perished, but the Tao integration stage disciples fared much better, with only a dozen or so of them having perished. Yi Hailon and Lu Yi were safe and sound. Due to the Soul Ivy clan's interference, they had chosen relatively weak opponents. One by one, the platforms gradually disappeared, followed by an azure revolving door of light appearing in midair. The members of the various races revealed looks of excitement. None of them were overly sad because of the deaths of those who had died. After entering this place, they had already prepared themselves for the possibility of death. Only the members of the God Wolf clan looked gloomy. Many of them looked at Long Chen and the Soul Ivy clan with murderous intent. The second stage was over, and the various ancient clans and their vassal clans had obtained a large number of monarch-level pills. One by one, the ancient race beings leaped into the glowing door and disappeared before the eyes of the masses. Only Long Chen and the others had not entered the third stage. While Yi Hailon and the others were puzzled, Long Chen stared at them and said, "The third stage here is the spirit weapon region. This is also the place with the greatest opportunities for Tao integration stage cultivators and Return to Void stage cultivators. Don't think about snatching weapons. Instead, cultivate as much as you can." Upon hearing Long Chen's words, everyone nodded. At this moment, everyone followed Long Chen's instructions almost blindly. Looking at Jian Shisan, who was still unconscious, Long Chen smiled bitterly. If he allowed him to continue like this, he would probably sleep for at least half a month. This was the first time he had used the formless sword technique and the sword soul. It had consumed too much of his divine thought. Long Chen's right hand landed between Jian Shisan's eyebrows. With his sword soul and powerful divine thought, he forcibly calmed Jian Shisan's chaotic divine soul. After a short while, Jian Shisan gradually woke up. He held a divine-level pill in his left hand and the broken sword in his right. "Master, did I win?" Jian Shisan asked subconsciously. Long Chen laughed involuntarily. Yi Hailon and the others around him also shook their heads and smiled bitterly. Not only did they win, but both he and Long Chen had killed a human king expert with a single strike. Long Chen patted Jian Shisan's shoulder and looked at the long sword in his hand that had broken when he was condensing the sword's soul. He smiled and said, "Let's go. The next stage happens to be the spirit of weapons domain. With your understanding of the way of the sword, you should be able to improve your cultivation again in this stage." After Long Chen finished speaking, everyone entered the light gate one after another. After a moment of dizziness, everyone took a step forward and appeared in another strange scene. After entering this place, everyone subconsciously took a few steps back. They felt a piercing chill in their faces, as if countless sharp blades were coming at them. The wind was strong and mighty, and the black wind did not stop. Looking ahead, everyone gasped. There were 8 large mountains in front of them. The mountains were pitch black, and there were weapons of different shapes on them. There was a tombstone in front of each weapon. Whimpering sounds could be heard. Long Chen's aura suddenly dissipated, and the power of rule surrounded him, enveloping the disciples behind him. Looking at the 8 mountains, he said, "As long as you don't enter the mountains, you'll be safe. The spiritual energy here is far superior to the outside world. I'll set up a formation for you. You can cultivate here in peace." Everyone nodded. At the same time, almost all the ancient clans were doing the same thing. The spiritual energy in the spiritual weapon area was even more abundant than the spiritual energy above the supreme grade spiritual vein. Not only that, there would be a spiritual energy tide every 2 hours on the mountains, and it would release boundless spiritual energy and weak power of rules. Seeing the confusion on everyone's faces, Long Chun explained, "This mountain of soldiers is also a grave for soldiers. Every weapon has a trace of the rules comprehended by the predecessors. It will be of great benefit to you. If you can comprehend the true meaning of the rules, you'll have a chance to break through your current realm." Everyone was stunned, and then they were filled with excitement. Even Yi Hailon and Jian Shisan could not help but sparkle in their eyes. Long Chun once said that those who entered this place would have a chance to enter the virtual entity realm, and those who entered the virtual entity realm would have a 1 in 100 chance of entering the human king realm. It turned out that he was talking about this place. Many human kings of the various clans in the northern region had obtained their opportunities here. Long Chun and Yenli began to set up the formation tacitly. The various clans also distanced themselves. This third stage was different from the other stages. Everyone hoped to break through here as much as possible. In some ways, the third stage was more like a reward. In comparison, as long as they did not retrieve any weapons, there would not be any danger. After the formation was set up, Long Chun stared at Jian Shisan and said, "Your sword is broken. Do you want to find another one?" Jian Shisan looked at the broken sword in his hand and shook his head. He said to Long Chun, "This sword came from the mountains and accompanied me for more than 20 years. Its shape is broken, but its meaning is not." Long Chun was stunned. He looked deeply at Jian Shisan, and his eyes were filled with gratification. Jian Shisan was really born for swords. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.